Afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. One thing stands true here. You're watching Game Time Live, and we're about to bring you the Pro League qualifiers here in our EMEA region. Plenty of action to behold, but before we get to it, my name, of course, is Ben Zephyr Fawcett, and I'll be joining you for maybe one or two final times. Who knows? We'll see here on the Game Time broadcast. But as you see right here to my side, a fresh face to add, Tony Rose, Mr.
Back and still make it into that final round. Double elimination is across all of esports, and it's hitting Apex, and I'm excited to see that for these competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to remember, we're looking at roughly about half of the Challenger Circuit entities that participated here across the entire split. So plenty of familiar names if you have been watching the Game Time broadcast here in these last few months. But I want to talk about that a little, expand upon some of these more notable teams that will be joining us here. So maybe to riddle off a few, and Tony, you can ask a few quick questions if you want to throw those out there at any given point. But the big ones that I personally here am watching will be as follows. Solo Q Goats joining us from Pro League. SSD, our number one Challenger Circuit team. T-Rex, our number 2. High Society, our number 8. And then Uprising, our last and final position on the Pro League teams. Those are my 5.
I'm a big fan of Solo Q Goats. You know, whenever I'm looking to add to my repertoire and try to learn the meta, I always watching Shiv because that man is an animal. I love watching his streams. I'm a big fan myself. But you know, I do have a couple questions for you. You know, as
Sure.
You know, I love me an underdog story. So you named a couple of teams there. I want to know who are your dark horse teams going into this event and why? What makes them a dark horse team? What makes them so dangerous?
Okay, well, you know what? I just said their name, but I forgot to even add the word dark horse to it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to embellish a little bit here on desk. I always appreciate what you do for me, Tony. Uprising. I know they're from Pro League here, but they leave a lot to be wanted given their performance looking at the regular split season. You guys, if you've been watching EMEA, know of course, that they're the last standing team here, only prevented from UU Capoys themselves being disbanded. That doesn't usually give anyone a sense of confidence in terms of supporting this team. As for me, though, I think they have a chance to potentially shake things up here. This is a squad that found major success in the recent Versus Legends tournament against 16 other Pro League teams. And you know what they did? They took first place. I don't know how it happened, but they have found some semblance here of footing, working their way into the final moments with their backs up against the wall. I'm talking perfect prediction, perfect play, and some high kills, major fragging events coming out of them here. So that's my dark horse. That's who I'll be watching, but only time will tell here as we make our way into these rounds.
All right, and with Uprising, I know there's multiple members on the team. I believe we have Kreezen, we have Shadows, and I want to say it's Huawei. I want to say it is.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I apologize. So, well, who's going to be that player to watch on Uprising? And what exactly do they bring to the table?
Well, if we're looking at the recent events and versus, it's got to be Shadows. This guy racked up, I'm not kidding you, just him alone was able to pull out a 10-kill game for himself in one round. It was 20 kills across the board for Uprising in that game alone. So it goes to show you the position 1 capabilities that exist within Shadow at any given point that could potentially come out here. The fact that he has that opportunity to blow up, become a top fragger against the likes of some of these other teams who have been competing in the same realm is something that's very, very dangerous. So when I look towards Uprising, that's someone I specifically look at.
Wow. 10 kills in a single game. Sometimes it takes me a 4-hour session to put 10 on the board. So I mean, it takes me a little bit to get running, but with that amount of firepower, no wonder you have such a high expectations for the squad. And I'm sure there's many in the chat that do as well. Speaking of kind of dark horses, just a change of pace. I know that Shiv is going to be rocking Loba going into which has kind of become meta in like the second half of ALGS, which I'm excited about because I'm a Loba main myself, and I've been talking about how invaluable Loba is as a character, as a legend. So what are some other legends that are going to be like a little bit dark horse picks for these guys? We're going to kind of change the meta a little bit here. We all know Caustic, we all know Valkyrie, and we all know Gibby. Who are some of these additional legends that are going to add value to each and every game?
Well, I'll go with you there and say it will definitely be that Loba, but some picks that might pop off here nor there. Definitely the crypto going to find its way through. It's something that has taken place here in the EMEA region, especially due to the fact that teams like to go a bit more of a slower pace from what you're used to, at least joining me over from across the Atlantic over there in NA. So look out for that one. Provides a whole lot of information that can expand upon at least finding dominance into some of these later zones as you're able to kind of plan out your rats and then utilize that EMP when it definitely provides here. For now, though, we are finally ready to make our way here onto World's Edge for the very first time, bringing you our first winners bracket game 1 here of our Pro League qualifiers.
And of course, we're going to be hot dropping into the World's Edge, and you're seeing already on the screen. That hill was actually pulled mostly towards the northeast side of the map here, going into Countdown, being that hot zone here. I love me a nice Countdown drop, but it gets a little hotter. Sometimes taking those 50-50 gunfights, they obviously might pay dividends, but sometimes they could be detrimental to how you want to play things. I'm excited to see where everybody's going to be landing and how things are going to play out and where that next zone is going to be moving to.
So we get a little bit of a notion regarding some of the teams where they're starting off. A big hole here on the map that I'm going to quickly point out because it exists is the fact that no one is taking advantage of central control on Harvester or Thermal Station Geyser. So you've got a massive line through our lower section here, which is usually used as a transition point, not being within play. It means we're getting a lot more closer matchups, especially towards the north and south, as everyone's a bit tighter into some of these 50-50s. And I'll be honest, games 1 and 2, this is where a lot of these teams feel each other out. That's kind of that dance in Apex Legends that I like to talk about so often. You're seeing it right now. We get some of the first fights down here. A drop already found, continuing to ensue here on our southern region. Another one out as this team drops as well. We'll have to see who this specifically is in just a moment. It's going to be Huskies finding the first take of the game.
Level 2.
Already down to 19 squads, and I thought you told me that the EMEA region's a little bit slower. I thought things get to, they want to feel each other out, but it looks like they're going right in. They're already challenging each other, and that's what I like to see. Meanwhile, Solo Q Goats, they're actually taking their time. They're already having that black market boutique, so looting is going to be fast, and it is going to be efficient here for Solo Q Goats.
Well, it will find its way through. I'm glad to see them back over at Trials, and yes, they're rocking that Loba, no longer playing Shiv on the Bangalore. Had a lovely discussion to see why that has such an impact here, but I want to make sure that this is clear to everyone before we move on. We just had Huskies, a team who's had some struggles in terms of stability and finding their success in the Challenger circuit, only really joining us in our last moments of circuits 3 and 4. Finally take a major win to start this one off. And who is it none other against? It's Click Esports from the Pro League. And I was chopping up a lot more success to some of these Pro League teams, but maybe a different narrative might be coming out here.
Yeah, no matter who it is, no matter who you're going up against, you have to have no fear in the dojo. So when the challenge comes, you have to be ready for it. And it looks like we might see another engagement right here over towards the cutoff. It looks like they're about to get into it here. And we're gonna switch over to Rats. Rats rocking the longbow is our Valkyrie player. Valkyrie, Wraith, and Gibby. So that tells me that the movement is going to be fantastic coming out of Rats. If they want to get out of a terrible situation, they're going to be able to utilize that with Wraith's ultimate. If they want to get into a great situation or get into and hunker down, they have that Valkyrie with those early rotations with her ultimate. It's going to be absolute fantastic movement coming out of Rats. My question is, how, without a caustic on their team, how well are they going to be able to defend some of these power positions as they're moving forward?
Well, what I see from this composition is something that wants to get aggressive. Of course, you got the standard Wraith, Gibby here, and that will definitely provide the utility to find your way into fights here. The Rat squad is something coming out of Pro League that has excelled on third-party advantages here, and that's slowly been punished, I would say, as we look at their experience in the Pro League split here. So they've had to kind of find a new playstyle for themselves, especially when it used to define them so specifically. As a result, they've become a little bit more well-rounded, hence this composition that they've picked, and they're willing to take more direct fights as a result and not really rely on finding the timing with a third party in mind here. With those 3 purple shields to their name, and as the game is still sitting within round 1, I am confident they could take it up against anyone. To make a quick note here, we do see, I believe, what is that last remaining member here fall from Click Esports as we take a look at Geyser. Bit of a cluster.
Bit of a cluster indeed. When we check the map over, I noticed that Fragment was actually wide open, so teams can really rotate over towards Fragment and gatekeep and slowly move in towards those future hills, while Crazy is going to be taking some heavy damage. Is our Valkyrie player here going almost down to 1 shot. Luckily, the armor swap was there. Meanwhile, Cronus, R99 in hands. Let's see if he's ready to use it.
He's got to take a second, though. He does not have the shielding there. For now, it looks they're just gonna slow up here, find their way to that second floor, and continue to defend their position on the far side of Lava Siphon. Something to note, though, High Society already picking up some major frags in that kill feed. Just took down ZVW here a moment ago, and while we can see right off the bat they're looking fairly low here, center Geyser, they're gonna take some time, heal up, and potentially look for more. Slumpy there could potentially be coming out with the rest of the SSD squad, but he loves shotgun defending.
Oh, They may love shotguns, but the R301 is doing most of that damage. Sadly, Krampus is going to be the first player to go down. So we have a Caustic and a Gibby by themselves and looking to rotate right out of there. They do not want to take that gunfight any longer. Great job by Slimpy and the boys. The question is, will they decide to hunt them down? If they do, they might run into a couple of canisters.
Tilt here setting this one up, a nice defensive utilization here of that to make sure that they clear the line behind themselves, and they still have a lot of that northern region to play. This isn't the only choke. The problem is they want to recover that banner. They want to make sure that they have the 3 members here, because falling early and losing that one could be a massive problem later on. And as you saw just a moment ago, SSD, they are still covering that body. They're sitting right on top of it, waiting for We Love Shotgun to potentially make a move here. Something I do want to touch on, though, because it's been up here for quite some time and we haven't really talked about it. The zone is pulling as far east as it gets. And while no, it's not going to be north, say something like Overlook, we are getting something more of the Geyser. A very rare final zone here that we typically do not see. And it's actually going to play to the advantage of squads that do tend to land here, like SSD, like High Society, who can find quick rotations. Because I'm going to be honest with you, there is so many high chokes coming out of the north, out of Lava Siphon, that will all be covered here as we make our way as early as rounds 2.
And it's not just enough to just land here at Geyser and whatnot. You also have to be able to defend that position. As a Loba main myself, I love landing over towards Geyser, stealing from the vault and getting that early position. Oh, yeah. But it is still fairly wide open. So you have to be able to win those 50-50 gunfights if you want to last there for long. Meanwhile, 1872, I'm loving this position right here, holding up the high ground. And anybody's going to be late rotating. They're going to have that early damage on them and getting those kills. But the question is, how is that going to fare when they're rotating into the hill? Yeah. Meanwhile, High Society are already bunkered in. They are ready to fight.
Oh, and you can already see a majority of teams here have made their way in. The only 3 not currently within play is 1872. You've got Crazy 3 still down there by Lava Siphon, and Trojan just slipping in, who will potentially run into Phoenix here in just a moment. My apologies. It looks like we do have another squad out there by Fragment, but it's a little dark on my end. I believe that is Huskies will be joining us sometime soon. Every other squad, though, as we have noted, is already sitting there in those major round 2 high real estate points. I mean, I cannot stress how dangerous this zone is. And yes, as you can see from squads like High Society, you have the opportunity to bunker in quite nicely into some of these buildings, but other squads who haven't had that opportunity are setting up on these hillsides just waiting for you to make a move.
And with High Society already kind of bunkered in right now, they have the armor swaps ready. You know, I really wish they had a Caustic right now to really secure these buildings here. I promise you, anybody running into these buildings, going into that slower tick rate, getting that early damage, and obviously with that fog coming in, so you're not able to see a damn thing. It is rough. So I wish High Society had that Caustic if they're going to rotate so early within the hill here. Meanwhile, Trojan, they want to get aggressive, but they're running into a couple of canisters here, so they got to be careful. And Phoenix Legacy are going to be gatekeeping them in soon.
Phoenix, they're sitting right there. Actually, the buildings out towards the west. I'm pretty sure this is going to be, Phoenix Legacy are right from behind. That's Wraith to Fall. That's your major fragger here for the Trojan squad now out here. That's a full thirst with life and finding a great ornament there. And now as they rush in, it looks like you're getting a bit of a mixed play here from within the tunnel. Thankfully, Nez, Piggy, they make their way inside, but they are a 2-man roster. You do have We Love Shotgun just down this hallway, also a 2-man roster, who will potentially be within this fight as Phoenix Legacy are going to be forced to move in here for round 3 in just a moment.
You know, I love the trigger discipline come out of Phoenix Legacy right there. You notice how our Valkyrie player, I believe that's Liffen, was just waiting for the right moment to actually put down the damage to where that player had no chance of moving out. But now they're being blocked in at the moment here. This is not fun. Just sitting on the outside looking in. They're going to start dancing here because now we have a little bit of a standoff here as round 2 hill is going to be closing in.
It's a bit of a shame there. I like that you got Sab. She's sitting on the side, just waiting. A massive missile strike. That's going to pull the dome out here from Nazita. Not within play. Phoenix, they expend their own in response to make sure they have the trade. But remember, theirs is going to be up just a little bit longer here. So we're going to see Trojan pull back here, but not quick enough. Already a massive almost break found there. The ornament going to keep of importance in life and off for the time being there.
Still on board here with Sab's Wraith in hands, and also having the portal ready if they need it, but they need to win this gunfight. They need to advance forward here. That hill's going to be closing in, and although it's round 2, it says not that deadly just yet. Eventually, it's going to start ticking, and they want to get that early position, but Trojan are guarding this doorway for dear life, and I wonder if they recognize that Trojan is only a team of 2 at the moment. In a 3v2 situation, I believe once they get that information, they're going to get really aggressive. They're going to push in, and it starts with the thermite grenades.
Oh, already Piggy there, taken down to just 1 hit away. Gonna look to find the battery. A nice defense from Nez to hopefully keep Phoenix at bay, but another squad, We Love Shotguns, I believe, coming from behind to take advantage. As a result, that will be it for the fan favorites. Trojan no longer available here in our first game. Phoenix Legacy, as quick as they take that one, as the rotation comes through, they pull back just as fast. Here's the problem, though. They've been pulling this level of aggression here for quite some time, and they still have yet to make their way into Geyser, where the zone will be closing in just a moment's notice. That doesn't give them a lot of opportunity to work with here, and they might be forced to utilize that Valkyrie and launch in, and that's no safer.
I love the patience coming out of them, but yeah, I think you're right. Eventually, they have to win these gunfights, and they have to advance forward and get further into the hill. There's 15 squads remaining, and we're going into round number 3. Eventually, that circle is going to be too small for all of these teams, as our Valkyrie player is going to lose all of their shields, and now Gibby and Wraith will have to hold things off. We're on board now with Sabs. Flatline in hands. They have to start taking some more damage in, and she is.
They've got the numbers advantage to be able to pull this one off. Take a look back down, though, towards the far south here. Samsung Morningstars, looks like they've found 1 knock here to behold onto 1872. Might have been able to pull off that revive, but definitely looking far more healthy as Mask makes his way in here. Major flesh found as it's actually going to be a full 2v2 here. A big revive in the midst of this fight, as Morningstars are going to be the ones that come out on top. Meanwhile, we take a look back towards Phoenix, and guess what? They were successful just as well.
Love the confidence to go in for the revive in the middle of that gunfight, trusting your teammates to get that kill, so this way you're able to get the revive, get back up to fully loaded, so you don't get third party here. But Phoenix Legacy, we saw them earlier, they win 1 gunfight, but now they got to get into another one. It gets harder and harder as they advance forward to get into Geyser.
Oh, definitely difficult for them. Keep things in mind, though. Fibonacci, a massive win they just pulled off. Took down the #1 team in our Challenger circuit. Quick to follow, though. Phoenix Legacy going to look to punish from behind. But no, Fibonacci, they're not having it. They turn around just as quick to punish in their own right. Here in the tunnel now, Saba is looking low. A nice defense within the dome as Fibonacci continues to defend and trying to find a little bit of some respite. They're going to have to pull far out, but they're doing a great job defending and keeping complete control here of this tunnel after their major take on SSD. But High Society, they find their way in deep from the bunker they've been holding for quite some time through that portal to potentially look for some KP.
Yeah, what a fantastic name for Of Importance, because, I mean, Gibby is one of the most important members to have for your composition, and Of Importance was the first player ultimately to go down, and Solomon coming up next. It's going to be Liffin by himself, but Liffin is the kill leader coming out on top, winning those individual gunfights, forced to take the portal out. And now, how are they going to play that? Going in for the revive onto Gibby. The hill's closing in, but wow, Liffin clutching up when it matters most.
Problem is, they're not exactly in the best position to continue to play out this zone. Meanwhile, that's going to be it for the Huskies. They were too slow in their rotation far out from the west. As a result, of course, going to fall here. Curious to see. I'm going to take a second, potentially check who was the winners of that fight. But either way, we know for a fact that they are currently down. All Frenzen here from Uprising, already making good on some of the promises I discussed earlier today, taking out the majority here of the Rat squad, who quite literally are ratting just beneath them here.
You know, one of the questions I had about solo queue Ghost is, you know, will they be able to slow down their pace of play to match the meta as here at EMEA or just here in Comp Apex in general? But I mean, they're rocking the caustic, they're doing everything they need in order to be successful. They're holding down that bunker. They got into Geyser fairly early and are now defending that position. So it looks like solo queue Goats are doing a great job of adapting to the situation here. And now we have our first, I love me a crypto, and we finally see a crypto composition still having that blue shields, but luckily 33 away until Noah's able to upgrade that to purple. And going into 8 squads, going into that round 5 hill, they are going to need those purple shields.
Absolutely here. And just to keep touching on it real quick, solo queue Goats, they were the ones who found the successful kills here onto Husky. So already picking up some notable KP. Crazy 3, they're the ones who came out on top of the major fighting that existed between 1872 and Morning Stars here just a moment ago, but that still doesn't put them within the realm to contest this zone. As a result, a massive Valkyrie going to come through here deep into the Geyser region. Thing is, none of these buildings are available. So where they land can be potentially extremely dangerous, running directly into Game of Drones and solo queue Goats who sit right between them.
Well, look at the space that they landed in is somewhat safe for now. The question is for how long, because there's multiple teams that are eventually going to close in. Meanwhile, solo queue Goats sitting in here trying to rat it out for just a bit. They dropped the low ball to try to get some resources to prepare for this final fight. Meanwhile, No is going to be the first to fall. That hill is merciless.
A bit of a shame there. That's going to be it potentially for the rest of Sed Comporteya, especially not having their last teammate to work with. High Society looking no better, pressured out here from far off. Crazy 3 utilizing their sight lines being above this building to pump in some damage from afar here, which is pretty surprising. This roster hasn't seen notable success in a few of the challenger circuits. This is probably one of their better performances over the course of this entire split here. We'll see how long they can continue to muster this one out. Still 8 teams alive, and a name that we haven't had the opportunity to discuss, T-Rex, the best, most consistent team here coming out of the challenger circuit, and they're looking as fresh as can be, already finding some knocks, playing off of that portal, looking for the aggressive sense to pick up some KP here, but still, they themselves are not in the best of positions either.
They're really not. Their backs are against the wall here, and they're still in a very open position. So, you know, it's only going to be a matter of time before Nade starts to fly their way, and ultimate bombardment is going to force them to make moves. Meanwhile, solo queue Goats are still getting contested here. We're doing a great job of holding things off, and Crazy X3 just sitting on the outside, waiting for things to happen. In about 9 seconds, we're going to find out where that hill is going to move, and that's going to be the deciding factor of this game here as Shiv taking heavy damage. You gotta stay alive here. Stay with me, Shiv. Stay with me.
To touch on it though, Phoenix finding a massive success here. Saba's huge source of kills found there onto the Game of Drones roster, and will finish off the entire squad. We talk about how great of fragger she is, and this just proves it. Now T-Rex, this is the poor position that we talked about, the zone closing in. They have no cover to work with, and as a result, Crazy 3 using that high ground position, able to potentially take all of them. There's only one left standing here, trying to find their way, and Phoenix Legacy now taking their own fight here very close by, and that's that EMP we talked about so early on. Sadly, not quick enough to get rid of what will be that Gibby shield, and as a result, Phoenix Legacy able to take the successful fight here against what is High Society and keep this one alive.
5 squads remaining. We're getting close to that final hill here. Crazy still doing a great job of holding that height advantage. I'm loving the way they're playing. They're playing good, fundamental winning Apex, holding on to that high ground, prioritizing their life, taking as little damage as possible while putting out as much of it. R99 in the hands of Cronus, and clearly he knows what to do with it.
Well, we'll see if he can find the shot that will be crucial towards their victory here. Solo queue Goats, they're still holding the center of this building. Phoenix Legacy, another squad that's a full 3-man, still alive, just a ways away, but we cannot stress this enough. This is a great high ground potential for Crazy 3 to continue to abuse here. And they've got this entire building to work with. They may be forced to rotate, but we'll see how long it will last. And now, Phoenix, they start taking the fight here. It's YY to fall. Krenzen to go next there, but it mixed damage. That's going to be it. I believe that was a solo standing out there. So now down to 4 squads.
You know, I was so proud of Phoenix Legacy. They've had one of the hardest roads to get into Geyser, having to go through multiple teams, multiple gunfights, taking those 50-50, and each and every time they've come out on top. But the question is for how long, because they still don't have the best position. Solo Q is holding down the inside of this base. Crazy's doing a great job of navigating the outside to keep it that height advantage. But the question is, how long can Phoenix Legacy stay on the outside
Second
when
Portella's
they're
down.
still in the open?
Second Portilla found down now. Only 3 remaining teams. 1 from Challenger Circuit, 2 from Pro League. Crazy 3, though, they looking already low on the other side. And it's Phoenix Legacy. 3 red Evos to work with in a complete control. Watching the only exit here out of this building. They still have the defensive bombardment to chunk this one out when the time calls for it. Solo Q Goats and Crazy 3 will have to pull the trigger at some point.
And mind you, I said they had one of the hardest roads. I mean, clearly Saab's actually having 8 kills, and there's our
potential steal.
Crazy trying to come right behind and go for the snatch, but it was not successful. Having to go back and getting right into the hill. They are, and Phoenix Legacy are looking good once again. They're taking the battle, and they simply are winning it. 2 members of Solo Q Goats are gonna go down. Phoenix Legacy are going into the end game.
No problem here for Phoenix Legacy as they pick up the first win of the Pro League qualifiers. And I gotta hand it to them here, Tony. A massive train of success coming into this game 1. You said it yourself. They came all the way through the Geyser Tunnel entrance from the north, and they defended against what? 2, 3, 4 squads before finally taking position as far east as they did. I mean, that's incredible.
Yo, the Phoenix Legacy are the real deal. I have to talk. There was multiple times where they should have been they should have gone down. They were gate kept leading up to Geyser at least 3 times. Then making it out of that cave, they still weren't in the best position. They were still out in the open, and somehow they simply win their pivs. And you know, as much as we talk about rotations, as much as we talk about, you know, high IQ plays and those rotations, eventually you got to win those gunfights, and Phoenix Legacy did just that. My gosh, that was impressive. That was Apex.
Yeah, you can't say it any better there. And that right there is that separation that we're starting to see what those Pro League teams bring down from an entire split of experience. Major props to not just Phoenix Legacy, but also Solo Q Goats as well, who managed to hold on all the way there until the end, gatekeeping a lot of those other teams who tried to hold off within the Geyser region. As for us, though, here on Desk, we're going to be making our way to a short break so we can get the scores all put together and bring you what will be the final standings of that game.
so hard to let you
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Game Time live stream. We're still bringing you the Pro League qualifiers, but before we make our way into Game 2, let us see how the math has settled out in our first game of the day here. And to no surprise, Phoenix Legacy lead the board by a wide margin.
My eyes are starting to fail me in my old age here, and there's no way that I'm seeing that they ripped off 17 kills in game number 1. Please, Zephyr, please tell me my eyes are deceiving me, because that is incredible.
No, it is a fantastic start to the day. What Phoenix Legacy has assumed in one game is something that typically takes other squads, especially from the Challenger circuit, multiple here to assume. But one squad that I cannot say that for is Crazy 3. Also, a fantastic performance from them as well. We saw them dominate the southern region here out of Geyser for quite an extended period of time, taking kills against teams like 1872 and Samsung Morningstars. As a result, while Phoenix Legacy looks great at 29, the gap from second, not too far behind.
That it's not. Like you said, it usually takes multiple games to achieve those kind of score lines. Meanwhile, in third place, Solo Q Goats able to put up 13 points total. Now, mind you, only 3 of those are coming from kill points. And one thing that we know about Solo Q Goats is that they're not afraid to get aggressive. So if you're expecting to only put 3 kills in 5 more times, you are going to be sadly mistaken. At any point in time that they're ready to up the tempo, I promise you they can. Watch out for them.
Absolutely. I think it comes into regarding that position. Like I said, very early on in the game, a geyser finish is extremely rare. And because of how little spacing there is, it kind of lights a fire under a lot of those teams to find their way in very, very quickly. And as a result, for a lot of the high fragging entities that we know and love here, like Solo Q Goats, like Hasai Society, the fact that they were actually within Geyser was a detriment towards their usual playstyle that usually rewards them a lot of kills here. As a result, that's why we see the scoring that we do. Trust me, Tony, once those zones start to pull them down towards the south, maybe up towards the north, we'll get something quite a bit different.
And that we will. And speaking of which, we got to point out the tough road that Phoenix Legacy had to make. I believe Sobs actually had maybe 9 to 10 kills. I remember seeing 8 kills, the kill leader, going into that final 3 squads. So I'm sure that might be 9 or 10 by the end of it. She was absolutely going off. You said she was going to be that high fragger coming out of that team. And man, you were right, Zephyr.
Oh, absolutely. Finally here, making our way, though, into Game 2. I'm curious to see I'm curious to see if Phoenix Legacy can do it one more time here. I got to remind everyone, I know it's not quite the last set in stone final, but this is the deciding factor for who's going to be making their way forward in the Pro League. And for a team like Phoenix Legacy, they want to hold on to that spot.
Well, we're going to see what they can do here if they can hold on to it, because again, these zones are always moving. Like, for example, now we're going to be pulling more towards that south side that you were talking about, that you wanted to get excited about, seeing those teams rotate downward over towards the tree. Let's see how this goes. I'm excited for this roundup coming up next.
Yes, sir. One big thing I do want to take a look at here is we had a massive gap between Thermal, Harvester, and Geyser especially. And granted, the zone finished Geyser, hence why we saw a lot of teams rotate there very quickly. But for the start, we had very different drops. And already, you can see things changing up here. You've got Click, Game of Drones, one other squad, all choosing to find their way into some of these southern regions. And the saddest part about all of it is that's not where the zone's gonna be.
You're right about that. And Geyser's actually seemingly wide open. And it actually looks like the hill is going to be moving straight over towards the Skyhook side of things. So with this hill playing out the way it is, what's going to be the advantage coming in? As hold on, we're actually having a battle already. Click is already engaging, but they're losing Shades immediately. And Elin is actually going to be dropping to one shot right next.
Right here, you've got Click and All Plan taking a very close engagement towards one another. Two squads here from the Pro League that I just discussed were taking advantage of Thermal Station being one of the more notable points of interest that were open. Now, I believe both squads sitting 2 members to fight against one another here. Neither too good. You're going to have to go for the full revive in just a moment. Click finds some great damage potential practice, but Pochi from behind is looking worse for wear. Karma, though, trying to get a little bit of a slip on the inside here. That's going to cost them as a result. Click come out on top.
That they do, and they're able to grab that banner quick, so we should be seeing Crypto coming back very soon. Shades is already itching. He's like, get me in here, get me some of this loot. I want to be a part of it. If you're gonna land at this point of interest, you have to be willing to take those gunfights. I think of, for example, teams like G2. They're always landing here. They're always having to fight out if some of those lesser known teams want to land with them and want to contest them, and usually they end up losing.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't get the opportunity to discuss it because we had to take a look at this 50-50 here right from the get-go, but we have a zone pulling super far northwest here. And notably, you get to play directly into Skyhook's south area with a lot of those buildings, and Countdown being completely available here in our round 2. Now, the problems that I'm currently seeing is that the rotations into these zones are a little bit dangerous. We talk about landslide being a major problem for some of these teams here, so I don't expect that we'll typically see anyone coming from that region. Expect some hard rotations through Lava Fissure, up here where we currently see ZBW in this survey camp area. That could be potentially something to work with, but you gotta be a little quiet here. ZBW. They just saw the crafting go down. They know there's a squad just getting away with no good here in survey camp. They look to potentially take advantage, find a good sightline, and the shots begin to fire.
They say failure to plan is planning to fail, so yeah, the crafting is always good, but it gives off that audio and that visual cue from seemingly across the map. ZBW trying to take advantage of that. They were being very disciplined, but I guess a player might have gotten spotted before they got into that ultimate position to really pounce on them. So ZBW have a choice to make. They could hold on to this high ground, they can keep them gate kept, they can keep them playing out, or they can rotate out like you're seeing right here, right now, and Trojan gonna ultimate out of there as well.
Trojan here looking to make up for lost time coming out of that game 1. One of the squads that actually was taken down by Phoenix Legacy in their rampage here. They're going to be going deep into Skyhook, looking to play around some of these more notable buildings. And I'm telling you right now, they more than likely will not be picking up any kills to work with. There's so many buildings here that as a result, a lot of squids just kind of take one for themselves and then they wait until they're forced out by the rotation in from ring. But still, I like it. It's much further planning to be seen from Trojan. It gives them the opportunity to look towards the future in comparison to having to fight their way through the caves like we saw last time in Geyser.
And now we're switching gears over towards 1872, still having Nilbat with the white armor, so that's not going to be good for long. But let's see where these heals are actually pulling over towards that Skyhook and see what the grand scheme of things is. You notice on the northwest side of things, you have multiple teams wanting to rotate in towards that edge of hill, which is seemingly safe. But once they start to run into each other, that's going to create these engagements. They're going to have to challenge their way to earn their spot within the hill. 1872 are well aware of that, so they're going to sit over here and just gatekeep for a little bit.
Well, I mean, 1872, they're nowhere close to zone yet. They're sitting all the way down here by Thermal. They've actually rotated out, out towards the exit of ring. And this is something that we can attribute towards how this squad likes to play. Yes, it's edge, but more importantly, they're a roster that likes to take as many fights as possible that sometimes can even play to their detriment. The thing is, they are a squad of high fragging with all great micro capabilities, so they usually come out on top when it comes to straight 3-on-3 action. That's why you see them going for such a hard rotation out. The problem, though, is that this typically can come back to bite when they are forced to actually play towards these final moments in zone. As a result, this squad, while high in our Challenger Circuit standings, has really accrued a majority of their points from the kills here.
We're going to see how they fare against. It looks like Click Esports are ready to take the fight as well. And mind you, again, Nobat still having that white armor, so it'll be really tough for them to make any kind of mistakes. And the Crypto EMP is coming in. That might spell trouble for 1872. We have our Wraith player holding down the high ground, having the RPO-1 in hands and ripping off shots, doing maximum damage while taking as little as possible.
This is a problem for both these squads. Round 1 now closing in will usurp this area, and while the damage is negligible, it's something that will force them to potentially look for rotations in just a moment, as now this is an additional factor they have to worry about here. What I like about this, though, is this is a test for 1872. We know them as a high fragging squad. We know they like to take very successful kill-oriented fights, but can they do it against one team that has come from Pro League? Zart looking for another angle, doesn't know there's another teammate just underneath him.
And an early ultimate bombardment is coming in, forcing the use of that bubble, but it looks like Blindzart is going to go all the way down to one shot and quickly goes down, leaving our target and Nilback by themselves, but the Peacekeeper is out, and it is doing damage, but not enough. Target FPS going to be the final one alive, able to come out, and the revives are coming in. 1872 simply win those.
How they were losing the straight one-on-one gun battle there. It was the defensive bombardment thrown down by Blindzart in his last moments before being the first knock that managed to keep the dream alive here. Now, making our way forward, that is 2 Pro League squads no longer in play. In that kill feed, though, you see someone that we know and love, T-Rex. They're finding their own successful takes against solo queue goats. Just dropped Unlucky, the current fill for Zip It.
Well, luckily for solo queue goats, they do have a member with that gold badge, so the revive comes in, and Unlucky's gonna come up with half health and half shields, and because they already had the gold, quickly up to full health and now putting down damage immediately. R99 shots from across the map doing 44 damage. As we take another look at the hill, multiple teams still haven't found their way in, and now with everything being so contested, there's 17 squads and most of them being within the hill. Those teams that are fighting over towards the outside, like Target, like Blindzart, are gonna have a really tough time getting towards that hill as it starts to close in.
Taking a look here at some of the squads that do look to be in a good position. Fibonacci right there in the midst of Countdown, hold a nice spot out towards the west, right across from T-Rex. We'll see how, yeah, this is a fantastic location to be in. The zone may pull away from this area, but the nice thing is they can either work their way successfully into one of these buildings or rotate into Skyhook. Now, I wouldn't want to see them rotate into Skyhook because that can be even more dangerous, but the fact of the matter is it still gives them the opportunity to find potential here, especially given that you can utilize that Valkyrie, and there is a lot of positions to potentially rat this one out. Speaking of rats, though, Mania, a major kill, a full thirst found onto Adam here, defending far south in our Harvester region. I believe this is our my apologies. This is our Crazy 3 squad. To Adam here, defending far south in our Harvester region. I believe this is our my apologies. This is our Crazy 3 squad. The Challenger Circuit individuals who actually just took second place coming out of Game 1. You don't want to see this.
not only that, but it looks like Rats were able to get away with an alternator as well, which is absolutely deadly coming out of the care package. So really excited to see how they're going to be able to gatekeep and keep anybody coming into Harvester when they have all the utilities that they need. You know, they have all the resources, they have that purple armor, they have the weapons, they're fully loaded. So things are looking very good for Rats, who might be able to, dare I say it, rat it out.
Well, that's not something that's done them well in Pro League. So I hope they continue to take aggression, and with that first kill on to Crazy 3, maybe they'll look for more. Solo Q Goats, they retain their position out here towards Skyhook, taking advantage of one of these major buildings still within play. And like I said earlier, there's a lot of them to work with, right? Okay, so you're going to get at least 10 squads here all hold up, especially if the zone does finish out in Skyhook, and potentially more if it pulls up this region. So for now, don't expect too much fighting here, not at least until rounds 3 or 4, or if you get squads like Crazy, like Fibonacci, who are over by that countdown region or further south, forced to rotate in with the Valkyrie, trying to take away control from teams like Phoenix Legacy, who currently lead the pack within this area.
Not only leading the pack, but also leading the scoreboard as well. Phoenix Legacy, that was that same team with high amount of kills and also pulling out the win in game number 1. They seemingly don't have a weakness here, but they are being tested. It looks like Liffin actually taking heavy damage early, going to be forced to utilize a battery as there's multiple teams around them, and eventually that round 2 hill is going to be closing in. Still 17 squads remaining, 51 players on the map. Let's see what ZBW are up to.
Oh. Not much, apparently, as we take a look back towards 1872, and they've got a long way to go. Last time we checked in with them, they were back towards Thermal Station, and yeah, the ring, it's starting to bite just a little bit here as we make our way towards round 3, and they're opting to find their way through the landslide area, which is, in my opinion, the most risky take you can pull here. There is no real defensible cover to work with, especially if you're trying to make your way into countdown for this zone. As a result, I like this better. Utilize that Valk ultimate. Try to fly over a majority of the competition. Where you land, though, isn't as secure either. I expect them to find their way deep into the west here. Maybe play off the backside of Lava Fissure, work their way in slowly.
Yeah, sometimes a Valkyrie could be high risk, high reward, depending on where you land. But it looks like they found a somewhat safer area to land in as they now try to rotate toward the backside of the hill. But just as I say that, multiple players being outlined, they're going to have to fight.
No chance for them potentially here. The dome down in response. Immediately target and Nilbat out here. It's Samsung Morning Stars. The squad, I believe, they potentially fell to in response in game 1. Taking them out here again. Now this is a big rotation. You don't have information regarding the zone here, but you've got Phoenix Legacy all the way out on the other side of this wall, playing a bit of that Grandma's house location here, still over by our northern end of the map, no longer in position of Skyhook. I'd like to see if we can pull back towards the map here in just a moment, get an idea of why these squads may be moving out here towards the east, because I'm gonna bet you that zone's pulling this way.
And really sad for 1872 that they're getting knocked out, because I know that was some of your critique. You know, they're a high performing team, and they can win those pivotal gunfights. When they get themselves into those terrible positions, how do they get into the hill? And you know, that was one of your questions going in. And sadly, they're going to hit that black screen here. Meanwhile, SSO taking some heavy damage, forced to portal out and right into another team. So backs against the wall. They don't know what to do. Gibby just going back and forward. And finally, SSO are going to be taken down. And we're going to see what Phoenix Legacy are up to, because they're still holding on to high ground.
Not just that, but looking to capitalize on some of these teams trying to find their way out here towards the east. Liffin taken low there, going to get the full bat off as Sabs finds her way back behind this rock to defend for now. Crazy 3, it looks like they did just pick up the 1 kills against SSD, but they were quickly on their way out as We Love Shotgun continues to clean up squads here from Countdown area. It looks like Phoenix Legacy, they weren't looking to play zone, just trying to be the gatekeepers. They're now actually going to find their way towards the position that they actually want to be here for our final moments. It is the countdown area, so you've got teams like Fibonacci, We Love Shotguns, High Society, all within this region, potentially capitalize upon it. We Love Shotguns were literally just here 10 or so seconds ago.
Yeah, it's gonna be really hard for Phoenix Legacy, but we saw them fight through the game number 1 and actually go through something similar to this earlier when they were trying to rotate into Geyser. Now we're gonna see what they can do once again with their backs against the wall. We know they can win those gunfights when multiple teams around them. It's not looking good for Phoenix Legacy, but so far, I mean, they're looting for free. Nobody's willing to contest our game number 1 champions just yet, but Rats looks like they are gatekeeping a bit, and they are holding onto their ground. 1 minute and 20 seconds until this round 4 hills will be moving. And let's take a look. What is this telling you? What is this telling you, Zephyr?
This is telling me we're about to see half our lobby disappear. All right, that's what it's telling me. You've got a majority of teams all sitting south side, and while you still are looking for squads like ZBW and High Society to make their way out of Countdown, there is only 1 or 2 real positions of play here on our northern side of Countdown. You have the building in the center, some of the walkways on the side, as well as the low ground to potentially work with. But other than that, everyone else will be pulling defense as you make your way in. So teams like Rats, like We Love Shotguns, like Phoenix Legacy will have an uphill battle as they're forced to make their way into this zone here.
Well, it looks like Rats are getting into another engagement yet again. Forced to back down is Mania, goes down, almost down to 1 shot here. Now Sorbeng with the Valkyrie. Peacekeeper in hands, flatline in the back pocket, but no ultimate just yet. So even if they wanted to rotate out of the situation, they cannot utilize that Valkyro.
Big down.
What are you seeing, Zephyr?
Big down there. That's Phoenix Legacy now without 1 member. Second Porteya from afar, taking him out with the longbow there. Going to be able to hopefully get the revive up, but this is what I'm talking about. The sightlines are not playing towards their advantage. We'll see how their fares. Now High Society, a squad that we know and love for their high fragging capabilities, play directly into zone. They're looking for this low ground that we just discussed within the region here. It will definitely put them into high positioning, but it's not defensible. It can be capitalized upon by a lot of squads who have sight from across this other side here of Countdown right now, and as a result, you may fall in your own game. Trojan, they themselves looking for rotation. Solo Q Goats trying to find their way into Countdown, far too late. As a result, going to fall. More squads completely lighting up our board there. Uprising, they're picking up kills. It looks like we got Phoenix Legacy falling as well. Trojan defending from the high ground as they found a successful take with their Phoenix ultimate in here. Looks like they find their response. This looks like half the lobby's gone. No surprise there.
You called, and it looks like we're already down to 11 squads, just 30 players on the map. And I love that positioning coming out of Trojan, turning a terrible situation into a good one, landing all the way up top, putting down that damage, and now they're looking really good for at least 1 minute and 9 seconds where that nose to move once again. Piggy with the wingman in hands, tagging up shots, forcing everybody to back down here. And Morning Stars are in a gunfight as well. They're not in the best position. It looks like they might be getting naded out real soon and forced to fight.
Trying to take note on maybe some of those squads that did fall into that last fight. I'm not confirmed on it, but it did look like Phoenix Legacy may already be out. We talked about the poor positioning in the south, and it did come back to bite them. Same with teams like We Love Shotguns and Routes, and really, it's no surprise there. We called that one out minutes ago. For now, though, teams now looking to play into their final residing positions here up towards this little bit of a cusp of a bridge that is probably the nicest place to be. Samsung Morningstars, they of course being on the low ground, will have a tougher realm to compete with. We finally take a look within the building, and it is Second Porteya, a team that's had some struggles here in the Challenger Circuit, trying to find some pacing for themselves, maybe a little bit of an identity, actually coming out with one of the god spots here.
I love the confidence coming out of Morning Stars as well. Even though they're down below in a terrible position, they're still utilizing that Loba ult, letting everybody know where they are with the visual and auto cues. Meanwhile, that crypto drone just flying around. I remember Shiv talking about it yesterday. If there's a crypto drone around you, that's just free information. That's just free wall hacks, if you will. Good. You have to destroy the zone, the drone, and it looks like they're just not worried about it here. From Phoenix Legacy going down to just 1 player left. It's going to be Liffin, an individual gunfight, but sadly not for long, going down to 8th place. Uprising coming out on top, but the question is for how long, because our crypto's down to 1 shot as well.
You got Furbanacci right here in front of Second Porteya, as well as Game of Drones. Samsung Morningstar is defending their backside against high society there as Kozis taking up his own response. Fibonacci finds the trade from below and actually takes down Samsung Morningstar, so that's going to give a little bit of a realm to high society. Is now, nope, it is going to bleed out as well here. See how they find their way in. Is now Second Portella make their way outside. This is that Game of Drone squad in and out through the portals that are looking to survive, and the best team currently right now is Trojan from afar, but can they compete with the extended loot here gained as we get to take it? As he's on that alternator, that's going to be very punishing as they make their way outside this building.
We're down to just 4 squads remaining. This is the end game, and I talk about it all the time. There is no end game like Apex across all of esports here. Second Portella. I'm going to try to, I know I probably butchered it. I apologize. They're sitting in a fantastic position, holding down this building, but the shots are starting to ring. Some of the doors are broken, but Fibonacci coming out on top, bringing us down to just 3 squads remaining. Every squad fully loaded with all 3 members currently alive.
There are one last standing Pro League squad coming into our final round's close. Trojan and Second Portella both residing here from our challenger circuit, and they're the only one that currently exists on the low ground. For Fibonacci, their dream here is that Trojan and Second Portella, they take the fight between each other, and then they're able to climb up and capitalize upon this third party. But there's so much spacing. There's so much spacing available for the Trojan squad. They've got time.
That they do, and notice that the wingman actually having that digital threat on there, so that's going to be really good when they're trying to collapse on that caustic team where other players not going to be able to see through all of the smoke and get that information. They're going to be able to do so. But as I say that, it looks like Ezzy also having the digital threat right back to look right back through that frog. And
Fibonacci's up.
It looks like they're up and at him.
In with the Valkalt. We'll see where they land. They're just trying to extend time. The dome is down here from Trojan. Is finally we get to see Fibonacci. They're just trying to play off of the return to battle here all the way up into the high ground, and now they're right in front of the Trojan squad. This is the worst place to be. As a result there, Trojan looks to move in quickly straight into the dome here. Picky goes up to the skies, comes back down, but he's still playing directly into zone. As a doubt, the damage is absolutely killer. Now Second Portella finally making their way out of the building. 2 members alive, no looking low, but Trojan quickly punishing. Kozis is alive, and he picks up the win here for the Second Portella roster.
Oh my, I don't know how he was able to clutch that out, but man, the Mastiff must hurt. He put in shotties to bodies, and they come out on top. It wasn't looking good for them for a second, but I mean, they just bounce right back and win those pives. Great job for Second Portella. I really hope I said that right.
No worries there, and I'll tell you what, he may not be here today, but if Dia was on this desk, he would be absolutely losing his mind. One of our few completely Spanish teams joining us here from the challenger circuit, and I talked about it as quickly as I could as we made our way through that game. They've had some struggles trying to find this kind of identity. They've been scared to take 50-50s and really perform for themselves. But as the circuit has gone on, we've seen them gain the confidence that has put them in the driver's seat. As I told them specifically, taking them from a spoiler team to a quad or to a squad that is definitely within the competitive realm to compete against the very best. Past that, though, I do want to just keep going off riddling here. I know I might be on a tangent, but Trojan, my boys here, they might not have picked up the win, but this is a major achievement for them coming out of game 1. They were punished so quickly by Phoenix Legacy. If you do remember, the fact that they were able to take this one all the way to 2nd place off of some incredibly risky plays that we had the opportunity to see is also great.
And to be honest with you, I have to attest that to the fantastic crypto play that we were seeing. That crypto gave them all the information that they needed to find out what gunfights they wanted to ultimately take. Then that EMP giving off that initial damage. When you combine an EMP with the Gibby ultimate towards the end game as that circle is as small as possible, that is a deadly combination. A crypto might be sometimes out in the open when it comes to not having any movement abilities to try to get out of a bad situation, but if you hunker down, if you hold down to that position, you get that that ultimate intel, you're able to find out exactly how you want to play it, and Se Comporte Ya were able to do it just lovely. I love the way they played, and I'm going to be really excited to watch them going into game 3 and beyond, because they played some damn good Apex.
Well, for us here on Desk, we're going to be making our way towards a short break. As we come back, we'll bring you the leaderboard, which will hopefully update, and maybe we'll see if Phoenix Legacy are losing their first place spot. Stick around.
So why is it so hard to let you go? To let you go. So why is it so hard to let you go? To let you go. So why is it so hard to let you go? Let you go. Let you go.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're already making our way towards game 3. I know it was a short break, but we're way too excited here on Desk. We just want to keep the action moving forward. But before we can make our way to World's Edge once again, we're going to take a look at that leaderboard, see how our winners Se Comporte Ya fare.
Yeah, and looks like they actually were able to steal away first.
Hold on. This is just our game 2.
Okay, game. So I was gonna say, I was thinking in my head that there's no way they were able to take away Phoenix Legacy with coming out with that big 29-point performance in game number 1, and then I saw this. I'm like, whoa, hold on, 20 points being earned by them, 8 of them coming out of kill points, and even Uprising in 3rd place, also dropping 7 kills as well. So that's gonna be really exciting. And this is game number 2 that we are looking at.
Yes, so we're taking a look at these game 2 points, and for being within that position for such a long time there, Se Comporte Ya picked up quite a bit of points there, more than just what we saw out of the Trojan and Fibonacci finish just a moment ago. But to kind of touch on it, Trojan, Uprising, Fibonacci, all kind of equivalent in their own final point scoring there. Some different level of positioning for each of them, but definitely great performance across the board. We'll see, though, how they fare in our overall leaderboard now. Phoenix Legacy still leading the pack, and our 2 Challenger Circuit Kings, Se Comporte Ya and Crazy 3, not far behind.
And just to kind of touch up on that game number 1 performance coming out of Phoenix Legacy, I mean, they're holding on to 37 points right now. 29 of that was just in game 1 alone. Se Comporte Ya were able to put 27 points between those 2 games. Same for Crazy at 26, sitting up fairly comfortably in 3rd place. But literally, Phoenix Legacy beat them in 2 games with just 1. That's how dominant that game 1 performance was. I believe it was 17 kills coming out of them with their tough road going all the way out and into Cave and trying to get into Geyser. Psalms dropping that incredible 9-kill or 10-kill game. It was crazy. It really was.
What I love about this, though, with our overall standing right off the bat, though, is we are starting to see the discrepancies that come out of the mix of our Pro League and Challenger Circuit players that we've been hoping would be apparent here coming into Pro League qualifiers there. You have more Challenger Circuit teams than Pro League teams within the top 10. That's saying something here because remember, folks, the top 10 here in this 6 series here will be moving on to the finals. And while, yes, there's still plenty of games to play away in our losers bracket, this definitely could spell our top 8 here in just a moment.
Yeah, I was watching Shiv's stream during some of those scrims, and he was saying that he was not able to predict some of the movement, the rotation that some of the lesser known teams were pulling off, and it was throwing them off guard. But at the end of it, he just said, "Hey, look, we just have to do what we think is right. Keep trusting the IGL, keep trusting what we know needs to be done in order to accomplish. And if they go down due to some craziness, a team being too hyper aggressive at the wrong time or picking the wrong spot, they said they'll just move past it. There's 6 games, and at the end of it, it's all about consistency."
Well, we'll see if they're going to be able to continue making this one live up to expectations here. Game 3, though, finally underway here. We make our way back towards World's Edge. One more before we find our way towards our halfway point. And this is where we see things tend to balance out. I know we've had a lot of early 50-50s happen here in the very midst of round 1. This is typically where you get the most balanced Apex experience here. So obviously teams haven't landed just yet. That's my prediction before they hit the ground.
We're going to find out a lot of teams landing over towards that northeast side of the map, over towards Skyhook and Trials, so that's going to be a little bit contested. Staging looks to be contested as well. For such a small area, multiple teams are going to probably look to rotate through there and get into a bit of engagement. Meanwhile, Harvester right smack dab in the middle. I love landing Harvester. It's usually some decent loot, and if you pick your spot just right, you might be able to hold this off for long. And look at that zone. Look where it's moving to.
Well, already down here towards the south, we finally get a little bit of a different take. Curious to see what that second zone read will look like here. We've still got a lot of major teams in play, but we revisit the 50-50 here at Thermal Station. Sadly, my prediction was nowhere close, and Click Esports already taking major success in their trade. Sirius gets the response on the poaching. Now it's a 1v1 here. Shades hiding within the building into the center there, and he's not able to defend. As a result, all planned. They're the ones who come out on top this time.
I mean, they planned it out really well, able to take down Click Esports, which is a big win. If you ask me, we're already down to 18 squads at the moment here. And now we're seeing where that secondary hill is rotating towards, and it's going to be going back over towards that Geyser and Big Mod area. Nobody actually landing right then and there. So it's going to be, I'm wondering who's going to be able to rotate there early and then ultimately hold it off for long. Last time we saw Solo Q Goats get there early, and because of that, they lasted in game number 1. I believe they were able to steal away 3rd place just by simply hunkering down and scaring everybody away. We're going to find if they're able to do that once again if that hill pulls hard towards Geyser.
Right, and remember, this is what I set up for game 1 here, because it's such a rare zone that now is presenting itself twice here at Pro League qualifiers. You have to get there as early as possible because there really isn't many places to be as a result. And for most squads, it's very tough to fight your way in. If your name's Phoenix Legacy, not as much. We had the lovely pleasure of seeing them take down, what, 6 squads on their way in? They had no problem committing to it.
That they don't. Switching gears over towards High Society, trying to cheek off damage here over towards Fragment. We already know how heavily contested Fragment can be. It looks like Denze's gonna elect to actually go in for the armor swap as opposed to wasting resources utilizing those blue heals. Fragment, just holding down a Fragment is gonna be really tough for them to go through, but we're gonna see if High Society are able to do it.
Well, they were taking a little bit of damage, but they found the reset, so I'm not expecting too much out of them just yet. Taking a look at some of our high priority names, T-Rex, Trojan, big squads from the Challenger Circuit. Nothing crazy, still trying to find their way in, all coming down from their northern drop spots. Solo Q Goats in the same. They're the closest to Trojans right now, and they might be taking an engagement here quite soon. Diff very quick to potentially pull out that Nox gas grenade and go for the fight, but it looks like IGL calls this one off. They want to find their way into Fragment first.
That they do in solo queue goes. If there's any team that can win those pivotal gunfights, it might just be them. We know that they're confident in their abilities, and we're seeing Shiv switch over to that Loba, because as we all know, Bangalore isn't quite meta just yet. Maybe in a couple of seasons we'll see that change here. Meanwhile, another engagement, another battle going on. What's going on here, Zephyr?
Fenerbahce taking a little bit of a harsh trade right off the bat, and this is something that we haven't really seen from this roster. T-Rex quick to engage, and as a result, there's only the one remaining damage left as T-Rex makes a major statement, taking out our third place team there coming out of game 2. And if you're a Fenerbahce fan, that's gotta hurt.
That it doesn't. It's surprising to me because when I see that Caustic and Crypto combination, I'm thinking high defense hunkering down, but it looks like they're just as comfortable getting to the offense and playing in these open areas and relying on that gunfight or that gunplay outplay ability. Meanwhile, they are taking some damage from the far range, so they have to make sure that they get over to a safe area. Rats already ratting it out in the geyser area. They're one of the first ones here, but the question is, can they hold on to it as these hills are starting to close?
Now, well, at least it's better than this. Remember what happened last time with Rats in game 1? Remember what they were doing when they played towards Geyser? They were literally sitting underneath the building, staying true to their name. So the fact that they're here early shows me already that they've learned from their mistakes coming out of game 1. They're playing the exact same position we saw out of High Society, which led to them pulling off such an aggressive win here. Or not, my apologies, not a win, but such an aggressive positioning for themselves in those later moments for game 1. So, faith to be had. Second Portella, they themselves finding some success. More than that, they're finding the full wipe there on to Solo Q Goats. That is it for the Solo Q Goats roster here, down in 17th.
And to my knowledge, that's our #1 seeded team going into these qualifiers here. With them going down so early, that's going to create such a big shakeup in the leaderboards. Trojan now going to hunker down here towards the east side of Fragment, but the question is for how long would they be able to do so with 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock before we move into round 2. Eventually, they're going to have to rotate a little bit closer to that Geyser or Big Mod area. Phoenix Legacy on the way, rotating, already catching a few heads, but deciding not to actually engage just yet. They want to get into Geyser as early as possible. We saw them do it before, but can they do it again here in game number 3?
Phoenix Legacy, though, they look good. They've got the 3 purple to work with here, so they can take any kind of fight, and they're already in the position to make that game 1 reappearance happen, playing gatekeepers here towards the choke on the far east side of Tunnel. They're going to be running in quite soon to High Society and Trojan as they make their way down, and those are 2 high frag, high kill potential teams that could look to take advantage. High Society already putting in the damage.
That the other flat line is mean at that. But however, Denze actually is going to lose all of his shields and be forced to back down and ultimately play that battery. Luckily, they're able to do so, and Kim Sizu is putting down shots. Valkyrie is so strong, especially when you combine her with a Spitfire. I'm excited to see how High Society are going to play this. I have a feeling they might be able to wipe them out.
I don't know. They're looking pretty low. That's going to be a double Phoenix expended to put themselves back on top, and in reality, I don't think the damage was looking as good if we take a response towards Phoenix Legacy. So actually, they might be pulling away here, not really willing to take that kind of fight anytime soon, and the zone doesn't push them to do so right? So currently, they're going to make their way back towards Fragment, potentially wait this one out. Trojan, their squad, though, still within the area, playing a little late towards the Overlook region, crafting for the time being, trying to take advantage of the edge that they have to work with. They're going to be the next to worry about Phoenix Legacy.
Well, you know, I remember you talking about, we talked about this backstage here, why High Society are a hyper-aggressive team, but you know what, I'm loving that recognition from them saying, hey, you know what, we're not doing as well as we thought we would in this gunfight, and it's still early on for us to take a different route to rotate into the hill, so they recognize that, they rotate back towards Fragment, and now going to be looking for a different direction to make their way over towards the hill here. Oh, what's going on, Zephyr?
I was about to say, but Phoenix, they don't let up. they're chasing them into fragment right now. I mean, they have given up gatekeeping position here in the zone. There's plenty of other options for them to find their way in. Look how far deep they were. They were originally within this building, and just a moment ago were across the bridge trying to pressure out high society. Now, they weren't able to find anything, so they find their way back here into this little village just north of the cave system. They're going to wait and bide their time here, as there's plenty of room for them to find their way into Geyser. And if they can pull off what they did in game one, I'm really not worried for this squad. But still, it's an uphill battle. I mean, let's not get it wrong. They made it look easy in game one, but it's something that can be filled with plenty of mistakes if you're not careful.
Game number one, they were the hunted. Now they are the hunters. Meanwhile, T-Rex, I'm loving the position coming out of them. Anybody trying to rotate into Geyser coming through this choke point are going to run not only into T-Rex, but also those caustic canisters. And mind you, he's still ulted out, so they are ready to fight any team that tries to go in, but it looks like they want to rotate more inward themselves. They're already seeing a team rotate towards the southwest side of the hill.
Quite deep here. Did get a look at the zone, and I want to talk about it real quick. It doesn't just pull the Geyser. Big Mod is also in play. So it's not a completely one and done to find your way into one of these buildings. You'd still have the rain to find yourself further south here. And depending on how the zone pulls, see this massive choke that exists in between the two here. It can be definitely something to hold. Now, Valk kind of dissuades that being a complete hold, right? You can technically fly up and over the valley and basically make my point negligible, but still, for the squads that may not have that rotation within their kit, it's definitely a place to look at.
And notice exactly where the T-Rex were in. Looks like it actually changed hands over towards Phoenix Legacy, who make their way over towards that choke point right above Geyser. I wonder if they're going to choose to hold that in or rotate in early here, as Huskies are going to be taking some early damage, but they're not quite in trouble just yet. All of their players having purple shields. They have an ample amount of ammo and the weapons to fight off. Huskies are going to be looking good, but looking good is one thing. Winning your gunfights is another, as they're looking to move over towards the east side.
Crossing this bridge here can be a little risky, but no one is currently in play to defend against them here. We're going to be heading the further south region of this zone, trying to play around the Big Mod area. And there's a little bit of housing right here that they are taking a look at. You get a nice view there from the longbow on Mugiwara. He does spot out that there is a team currently in play inside, and as a result, going to pull away there. So curious to see where they find their final positioning, because they're going to be gate kept regarding finding at least the rotation in the Big Mod.
When Phoenix Legacy came out on top in game number one, this was the exact route that took at Trojan to try to do the same thing, but it's easier said than done to win these gunfights with multiple teams gatekeeping the cave, and Nez is fighting that real quick as he gets torn apart by the shots, and the canisters are going off. Meanwhile, Crazy X3 going down to just their final player here, utilizing that shield to try to stay alive, and it looks like they're deciding to get aggressive and up the tempo. Can our Valkyrie player win this gunfight?
Yuste trying to stay alive, tries to go for that revive, unable to do so due to the Arc Star, and actually going to lose out on getting his teammate back up. And it's a bit of a shame. They just took a massive win here against All Plan, the squad we saw win the 50-50 in Thermal Station just a moment ago. Now one member left standing. Curious to see if he can win any kind of fight here. It's almost taunting to see the revive station as close as it is and being unable to do anything regarding your teammates here. So now 1872, a highly aggressive team. Samsung Morningstars, they're actually going to be the ones who pick up that kill there. Might be looking for some more as they actually take down Nilbat.
There was multiple teams surrounding that Valkyrie player and putting down as much damage as possible, trying to steal away that kill. 1872 looks like they're going to get into another engagement here with the hill against the wall. I wonder how they're going to play that out. Meanwhile, ZBW are getting to an engagement as well, and some team dares craft in the middle of Geyser with multiple teams around.
It's definitely a big risk there, but they do have control here of Big Mod, and as a result can be maybe a little bit more lenient with how they decide to position. Samsung Morningstars, this is the squad that holds the god spot right here. For now, they are going to be forced to move off of Big Mod at a given point and find their way in deeper here, right out in front of it. But there's still cover to play and work with. The problem is they're going to be dropping down in front of squads like 1872, like Rats, who currently sit right beneath them.
And the good thing about Morningstar is that when they're ready to push up and they're ready to create some kind of engagement, they have that Loba. So that tells me that every member of this team is going to be stacked with nades. And when you start a push with nades, putting in that early damage, creating those openings for you to slide in as the enemy team is forced to back down and avoid that damage can be crucial to a big win going in and out of these gunfights. But Rats are not going to allow them to get to that point because they're sliding into Big Mod and trying to knock them out.
And they're not doing too well, though. Samsung Morningstars literally have not taken a single sort of damage themselves there. And as a result, Rats, though, do find their way up to that second floor. I think they might just be going for a gentleman's agreement now that there is a third squad sitting above the both of them. Taking a fight here would easily mean the third party coming through here in just a moment to capitalize. In that kill feed, we are seeing some high pressure put down towards Trojan. Both Piggy and Nez down. That'll be it for the Trojan squad here, as that's going to be second Porte up, finishing them off completely.
We've gone down to 13 squads remaining, just 1 minute and 42 seconds of round 4 hill moving forward. And the question is, how can Morningstars fare in this push coming from Rats, and then ultimately have to rotate over toward the hill? It's a tall task for them to come out on top. Meanwhile, so is some second Porteya forced to back down and utilizing that portal, but the Arc Stars are coming in and doing some cheeky damage towards Izai.
Right. They have the potential to find Null up here if they've got some defense coming through. The gas trap going to provide some spacing for now. I believe that might be We Love Shotguns there if we've been keeping track of this kill feed. Trying to find their way in. Constantly Poses putting these gas traps down, the Thermite as well, to give them the spacing to defend, but they continue to back off. It's a good Thermite, though. I believe it finds all 3 there as they tick down, and they're going to look to capitalize, knowing that they have that as well as the EMP, and they continue to shred there. First knock not found, though. It's actually in response. Now 2 members. Second Porteya have to find some semblance of control back into this fight, but they know they've lost the one. We're just going to give it out here.
I mean, the problem is once you go down in numbers, you put your team at such a huge disadvantage that most of the time it's better to just simply rotate out and play your life and ultimately play for that placement than to try to take a 2v3 scenario. Senken Porteya were well aware of that. Sadly, it didn't work out in their favor despite having that EMP, which I thought was going to be just the edge they needed, but sadly it was not enough. Meanwhile, SSD deciding to Valk the Valk out of here.
This is risky, though. This is a highly late Valk call. You've already got one you can see currently in the distance. When we talk about MIG Mod, this is something that has been controlled for quite some time now, and to play in the forward position here is dangerous as it gets. Not a lot of cover to work with, and some still sitting on top of Big Mod, utilizing those high ground sight lines to potentially capitalize. Phoenix, they are doing the same here. I like their positioning, though. They try to play up against this wall. They're going to get a quick notion of those teams that do hold the current choke, and a quick defensive bombardment going to come down on them as a result.
Yeah, the problem with Phoenix Legacy is not a bad position, but there's multiple teams around them. They are the meat in this sandwich right now, and T-Rex are looking to close the bread in, going into that crypto drone to give that information. I wonder if EMP is ready here for T-Rex, because it looks like they're setting up as our first player in Lifin is going to go down, leaving Sobs and Of Importance by themselves to fight things off, and sadly the finish is going to come in.
We got that high ground support coming through there. A nice sight line to actually find a successful amount of damage to wipe completely. As a result, now sitting 2 members, it's going to be uphill battle for the Phoenix Legacy squad to continue to retain the gap that they have provided. But I will say, sitting at 8 squads remaining is definitely good. If they picked up some kills to work with, they will continue to accrue a little bit if they can stay alive. That's difficult task, as you can currently see right now, just barely working with the cover they have. Teams like High Society, though, Huskies, all fallen off here in these last moments. Now we look at squads like SSD, Game of Drones, big names from the Challenger circuit, some of the best performance yet that we have seen out of them today in the Pro League qualifier, all within the potential to win it.
Onward now is Slampy of SSD, and my gosh, do those wingman shots look good. My wingman don't work like that. I'm gonna have to find out what kind of wingman he's using right now. Maybe I need a different skin or something, because he's ripping off shots. SSD just trying to hold things off right now. We're down to 8 squads remaining, and round 5 hill is closing. There is not enough room for all of these teams. We're gonna be dropping squads quickly.
You're going to be forcing a lot those who are currently in big mod to drop down. That will spark the majority of fights here as they make their way out. Looks like a little bit of leniency given to Phoenix Legacy, but just as I say that, going for such a hard rotation regarding loot actually gets Sobs punished there. Of importance, can't really look for the revive because quickly the team comes through here. It's a full 3-man and there's no way to defend against it. I believe that CBW.
And with Phoenix Legacy falling at 7th place, I mean, it looks like we might actually have a shakeup in the scoreboard here as another EMP is going off, but the wingman shots are starting to hit from mass, putting 45, whipping out the attack. My gosh, everybody just utilizing the wingman to perfection. The finish going to come in, and just like that, we are down to just 5 squads. Morning Stars are looking good.
Ooh, 1872, not so much here. They are taking the fight against SSD, who have finally made their rotation in. Morningstar is going to quickly respond, throwing down that thermite to potentially find the third party into this one. Dome going to provide a little bit of safety for SSD as they make their way out, but you got a bit of a split there from Ani Soaz. In the middle, it is T-Rex that currently hold position. I kid you not. These 4 remaining squads are all Challenger circuit based, and it is some of the best talent to represent here coming out of Game 3.
All of these squads are hungry. They're looking to make a name for themselves. Maximum amount of damage coming in out of that Valkyrie Q. Dave is letting his teammates know that we have to put it on and get aggressive, and they're able to do so. We're down to 3 squads, 9 players on the map.
9 players down in SSD. They make it look easy. Slempy with the wingman to clean up last remaining members there of Game of Drones. Now Samsung Morningstars, they're taking their own successful fight here in response to T-Rex. A big prize found from Mox, our top fragger on this squad, getting a nice rotation and angle found to capitalize on that center building. As a result, 2 members down here for the T-Rex squad.
It looks like Morning Star just doing a great job of holding things down. They even have some armor swaps back here right next to the Black Market Boutique that they can grab ordinances and any resources that they need. Morning Star are hunkering down and they're hitting their shots. This is a winning recipe as they start to up the
2 squads
here. 1 minute and 18 seconds, and we're down to 2 squads, mano and mano.
Look at this angle found from SSD. Slempy tries to make it happen, but more importantly, the dome is no longer in play. Look at that defensive bombardment. That's going to be crucial here to this fight now. We see this one thrown down. You've got Samsung Morningstars. They're going to find their way into the central building to defend against it, and as a result, the damage nowhere close to as pressing. So a mini dome playing off the zone they have to work with. Is Slempy on the side here? Actually finds a quick knock in response, but will be taken down as Samsung Morningstars. 1 remember remaining. It's Mox, but it doesn't matter. SSD, our Challenger circuit #1s, finding their first victory of the day.
Big wins coming out of SSD. Morning Stars were looking good. They had the positioning, they had the resources, they were hitting shots, but SSD were simply better in that engagement. That was a beautiful collapse, textbook at that, and SSD have earned that win.
Absolutely here. I got to say, major props to SSD. This is a squad I had the opportunity to sit down personally with and hand talk with them here prior to the Pro League qualifiers. And they told me coming out of these Versus Legends events that they've had some struggles against real Pro League teams that they finally had the opportunity to match up against. And they're so punishing here. And that completely changed the way they look at this game here. They talked about how they used to play edge and they used to take advantage of these small rotations and the little crafting that you may be able to communicate towards on your next point of interest. You can't do that in some of these final lobbies. You need to be constantly on, aware, looking for your next take here. And while games 1 and 2 have not been good for them, this game 3 gives me hope that our Challenger Circuit number 1s can potentially find their way into Pro League.
At this point in time, at this level of competition, Apex is literally a chess game. You have to be thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, as you alluded to. And if you're playing checkers, you're going to be hitting the lobby quick. And at the end of the day, SSD were able to think those multiple steps ahead, able to get into the position that they wanted. And then when it mattered most, again, because you can rotate as well as you want. You can have those high IQ plays. You can play near perfect Apex, and it means nothing if you cannot win those pivotal gunfights. SSD did that. SSD deserved that win. Great job by them. Truly a great job.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic win, but we'll see how they fare here on the leaderboard, given they were placed far too low, I believe sitting at 18th before coming into this game. That math has yet to be decided, though, so we here on the desk are going to be taking a quick break as we come back at you with those results. Stick around. Here to the Game Time live stream. We're finally at our halfway point of our Pro League Qualifiers Winners Round 1 here. We finally make our way back, and it's time to take a look at that leaderboard before we went away to break, I talked about SSD being deep in the clutches here, and now they rack up 24 points in that game alone.
That they did, and that means that 12 kills coming out of SSD on their way to stealing away first place in that game number 3. Morningstar not too far behind them, and we're looking so good going into that game. Watch out for them, and also T-Rex to round out our 3rd place position. 12 points from placement, and also 5 kills to go along with that.
This is crazy. I want you to understand that the top 9 teams here are all from Challenger Circuit. The top 9 teams. If you have this same level of performance to continue on here for the rest of the night, you would be sending almost everyone here to our losers bracket. That's how much talent exists. That's why I love these players.
They are hungry and they're looking to make a name for themselves. And one of those teams is Phoenix Legacy, somehow still holding out to first place, but holding on for dear life because they only got 40 points. They're only 3 points ahead of Semportia and Crazy X3 sitting in 3rd place, 30 points on the board. Zephyr, what is this leaderboard telling you?
This is telling me a whole lot here. We've seen some massive changes, especially from teams like T-Rex, Game of Drones, and SSD, now all joining themselves within the top 10. Names like Phoenix Legacy and Crazy 3 are still holding on, but the gaps are closing. The difference between 1st place and 6th is barely a game away for a lot of these squads, and it goes to show the polarity that we have among all of these teams here, because really anyone can find a successful takeaway.
Yeah, obviously, competition is at an all-time high, and there's a reason why the top teams are where they're at. But also, there's a level of a little bit of randomness when it comes to where those hills are gonna go. So your ability to adapt is gonna be so important going into each and every one of these games. We saw a team like Phoenix Legacy dominate in game number 1. They adapted to that zone moving towards Geyser. They simply won their gunfights and stole away that game, where some of these other teams doing the same thing. They're adapting to each and every zone, finding their spots, picking and choosing where they want to battle it out, and ultimately coming out on top because of it. Again, you have to have that gun skill, you have to have that IQ, but I also want to add in there your ability to adapt to any situation that's given to you is one of the keys to success as we're going into game number 4.
Thankfully here, a lot of these teams still have time to figure things out. We've got 3 games remaining here into our final winners rounds, right? And so at that halfway point, you've gotten a good idea regarding those who are at and up against you here now. You can then capitalize. Start finding what is your kind of win condition that you like to play around. If you're 1872, go aggressive. Find those edge teams. Look to capitalize on kills that will put you on the board. SSD, play just as consistent as you've been known for. Either way, we make our way just in a moment towards our game 4 here. And I gotta ask you, this is your first time seeing some of these EMEA teams. Who really stands out to you?
I mean, it's really easy for me to say Phoenix Legacy after that game number 1 because it's still fresh in my mind going into game 4. But you know what? I'll throw a little wrench in there, and I'll say Morning Stars. I think Morning Stars are playing good, winning Apex, and I feel like they're always 1 or 2 mistakes away from coming out with the big one. Even going into game number 3, where they had that positioning, they had everything. The stars were aligned, if you will. The Morning Stars were aligned, but they weren't able to capitalize and end up coming out of 2nd place. I'm really surprised the way Morning Stars plays. I just feel like it's the trigger discipline and also the high IQ plays that end up pushing them forward. And you told me backstage, they're so consistent, and I'm seeing just that.
Right. And you know what? And they kind of came out of nowhere here. And I'm not going to butcher it this time for the folks who are currently watching. This is a fully Italian team that is joining us here. And they have a great sense of understanding regarding that level of consistency that you bring up. But it didn't appear until Challenger Circuits 3 and 4, given why they're so low on the board in comparison to some notables like SSD, like Game of Drones, and others who currently hold the higher positions here out of the Challenger Circuit. I mean, Dia, if he was here, he'd tell you more. You know, the fact that this is a team that easily can compete against the best of the best, and if they had had a few more challenger circuits under their best, could have potentially taken all the way.
Well, we're gonna find out what they have here. I mean, this is when it matters most. You know, you raised a good question, and you know I'm gonna see that, and I'm gonna re-raise you another good question.
Okay,
so
let's go.
if you're on the second half of this leaderboard here, obviously something's got to change. Maybe you gotta get more aggressive. Something's got to. Are you changing up your legend composition to match the newly found aggression that you need to find in order to come out on top with just 3 games remaining?
That's a tough one. I personally think there's definitely a hard meta for all these teams, and not just the one that exists in Apex Legends, but the one that benefits them, right? So sticking to your guns is absolutely crucial. I think the best example to that is from what we saw out of SSD. They just picked up their win, but most notably, games 1 and 2 were abysmal in comparison. They picked up, I think, 2 points total in comparison, right? But they didn't change anything. They stuck to what they knew and what they were able to work with, and as a result, they came back into it once they got a bit more of a balanced sense here for the game. For now, though, take a look at this zone, see how the rest of these squads fare. This is their chance to slowly rack up the second half of that board, find their way into the top 10, or making our way towards the north.
And what I just saw with that quick peek at the zone there, it looks like anybody landing towards Climatizer is feeling really good, having those resources and rotating in, looking just as good as 1872, ripping out the vault shots. 2 players are gonna drop like flies, and they're on the prowl.
1872 looking to take advantage of the usual 50-50 we see here between All Planned and Kick Esports at Thermal Station. As a result, they may just be picking up 2 whole squads here to work with in this exchange. I believe that's one of the last remaining members of All Planned and Kick, both running away. Yeah, only 1 member each, and no clue where they are hiding. 872, they're going to let go of their prey for now. They're in the kill feed, though. We do see Game of Drones. They're picking up their own success here, but looking a little bit worse for wear. They finally drop, I believe, the full squad there.
Yeah, Kramer, out of All Planned, ultimately needs a new plan because 2 of his teammates did quickly go down, and now he's going to be playing his life either forced to make a decision whether he's going to go after those banners and try to get a little risky with it, or maybe play the rest of this game, ratting it out a bit. Meanwhile, 1872 must be feeling good after that big engagement, rocking that Wraith, Gibby, and Valkyrie composition, so it tells me they're ready to rotate at any given moment, but they also want to get aggressive too. You know, Wraith wants to get in there, put that early damage in. Ultimately, if things don't go their way, gonna queue right out of there. But if things are looking good, they will up the tempo, they will get aggressive, and just like Game of Thrones, of course, just rotate out.
Yeah, into that portal they go. Jules, a little bit of safety to play towards the central area here at Climatizer. A little bit of safety. This is a very similar dome that we see off the western end of Thermal Station, so if you know how that one plays out, imagine the same thing here. Either way, it's going to give them a little bit of respite as they put themselves back up into a good place of healing. You've got squads like Phoenix Legacy just a ways away who could look to capitalize and pull that trigger here. And to confirm or go back on something I just said a moment ago, it was not Game of Drones picking up those kills. It was actually T-Rex's oldest who was finding those there. So a little bit of a correction regarding my statement.
SSD holding things down. They have the spot that they want here, but the question is how long would they be able to stay here, especially with that drone flying around and giving the information. SSD want no part of that. No free, any information you get must be earned. They want to get rid of that drone immediately. And speaking of getting rid of any players or any utility immediately, we actually have a Wraith, Gibby, and Valkyrie composition holding on to ultimate high ground at the moment, who are now rotating into a better position.
Right, Fenerbahce trying to find their way in here to the back of Climatizer. This is exactly where we just saw Phoenix Legacy posted up on this high ground, this building, quite literally. So as they make their way in, they've got to be a little reserved. We don't know who quite stands in front of them and the caliber that might present themselves. Either way, the low ground is definitely clear, so they've got something else to work with. And oh, we take a look at one of the few cams that we get the opportunity here. A nice rat from All Planned, just barely staying alive. And the craziest part is, I'm pretty sure that's 1872. Just sniffing things out, just waiting.
I love that angle right there that we observed. It was a catch. Like you catch the rat just sitting there, but they're just Valkyrie just hunting down, just looking like
standing.
where is that rat? It was almost a picture perfect moment. I think we found the YouTube thumbnail if we need one here. On board now with solo queue goes and looks like Shiv's in very much trouble, forced to bracelet out because that ultimate bombardment is merciless.
Bombardment down. He's going to be able to potentially pull himself back up regarding the full battery there. And Diff, quick to respond with the R301.
Is merciless.
Bombardment down. He's going to be able to potentially pull himself back up regarding the full battery there. And Diff, quick to respond with the R301, pushes the team away. So a nice defense found from that angle. They're actually going to go for full response here. Nox gas grenade as well as the ornaments. No ticks of damage found from the Nox, but it's going to zone them down here from their high ground position. Maybe give them the angle to capitalize as more of those arc stars come out in response here. Shiv, Diff looking for those angles, but the team has already rotated. They're now on the other side of this pillar. Finally, they're able to make full exchange here as that Gibby Dome does come down to provide some defense. Remember, Sulky Goats, they don't have the option to work with something like that, and they might be punished as a result, but those Nox potentially coming out here. Good wipe this one.
Although the Nox gas didn't put down damage, it was able to block out a line of sight and force the funnel. And now we're seeing the collapse coming in. R301 in hands, and it looks like they're going to elect to hunt that. Oh, no, actually, letting him live. Going in for the thirst. I thought they were going to hunt that final player down, but solo queue goats know how important this height advantage is. And I guess they don't want to give it up. High IQ play coming out of them.
And we'll talk about it. We haven't had the opportunity to look at this zone, right? This is going to be pulling towards north, highly present in epicenter and climatizer. And this region, as you have noticed, is very important. The solo queue goats hill here that they currently held and what Huskies held onto as well for just that last moment there. So it's great for gatekeeping any teams who are making their way through fragment. Right, you still have the inability to contest against those who are in the far east towards Overlook, making their way up through some of those exchanged tunnels. But for anyone who comes to the central map, you definitely get the opportunity to press some damage down and potentially find a few squads who are late on the rotation. Now, zone hasn't defined itself, but even still, I think that's one of the better areas to play if we're talking about late game. The next best area I would go off on a limb to promote would be the northern area above Survey Camp, that last and final rail line. And while Climatizer will be very busy, if it pulls further south down towards the Climatizer central area, there's a bit more rotation to be found due to the lack of verticality over there. In comparison, Climatizer, you've got so much elevation to try to find your way up. Over there on the southern ridge, that's a major bridge system that a lot of teams love to sit on. You get a look at it right there. Sobs peeking through the door. That's exactly what I'm talking about. If this zone pulls further south, you have to fight up against that.
Well, you know, it's going to be tough here, but, you know, there's obviously a lot of value coming out of Climatizer. We're going to see how they're going to like to play that out again if the hill moves over towards that direction. Meanwhile, our crypto player trying to gain some information as well, sliding in, just getting all the intel they need, and we're seeing a Valk ult coming out of Crazy X3.
Crazy 3 here, be making their way into central epicenter. It looks like this hill, non-contested. Remember, those solo queue goats not too far away here. This is what I was talking about when I said the eastern end is not as easy to retain control over. As a result, that gives Crazy 3 the opportunity to find positioning here. Now, though, doesn't look like anyone's too close by to punish that rotation, and it is a early zone, but more notably, if we look towards zone 3, we're actually still within it, and they'll be able to gatekeep anyone who kind of tries to come in out from the east like rats.
And we're seeing just that, and also they have enough time as well. It's also a timing thing, because I mean, if anything gets a little bit too dicey with solo queue goes deciding to get aggressive or anybody else, they still have that wait, they still have that Valkyrie ult that they could ultimately get out of a bad situation and still plan their routes on how they're going to move into that round 3 hill and ultimately round 4 as well. Meanwhile, Phoenix Legacy, they're very comfortable where they're at right now. They're just going to hold things down, and all planned, still forced to rat it out a little bit. 17 squads remaining, 47 players still on the map.
And this is a nice sight to see, right? We talk about the level of balance that comes into Apex. Once you start getting to rounds kind of 4, 3 or so, you do get a lot more squads able to stick around because they have the additional information of those early games behind them. And as a result, you get a lot more squads playing from these later zones. I know, crazy thought. I make such complex points here, but it really is something that will go on to influence a lot of the positioning for them. Rats, they themselves playing hard edge here. Trojan, though, they're picking up kills. Great. That's a full knock there onto second Portella's Ezzy. Null down
Trojan
too.
Trojan looking really good with that height advantage, ringing out shots. They are here to play on board now with Piggy. They already cleared that one team out. They're going to be able to get their resources, but the question is a third party coming in, because we are seeing some shots rate out across the map, and now we're High Society looking to maybe hunker down here for now. 1 minute 56 seconds for that hill's going to move, and with 17 squads remaining going into some of these deeper hills, there's simply not enough points of interest. There's not enough places that you can hold down, so fights are going to be forced, and Trojans seem to be well aware of that.
They have one of the better positions. This is that high ground that I did discuss. High Society also as well playing the car just a little bit further north of there. Notably, second Portilla now, though, down to their one member left standing. As a result, that team will not be pulling too many points here, and they're the closest ones to potentially usurp the position that Phoenix Legacy holds here. And while they're still alive, 70 squads remain. We got another rat situation that we all know won't last for too long here. So 3 rats on the board, if I'm to be sure.
Oh, what do you mean? Gibby's the ultimate rat. Gibby's movement is absolutely insane. He's going to stay alive as long as possible here.
I don't know about that one.
No, Gibby's not the ultimate movement character. Oh, I'm sorry. I could have swore Gibby was the ultimate movement character. I guess I was wrong.
Either way, we finally get to look at this zone, and you couldn't have said it better. I know we didn't have the information complete within our realm, but there really is no major points of interest regarding either Climatizer or Epicenter. You get the last ebbs and flows of that building and its cover it provides up there by Climatizer, but mostly it's going to be these bridges, the low line of the trains there, and some of the rocks out by those hills that will provide your defense. Sadly, 16 squads remaining. ZBW, another Italian squad, just taking down T-Rex, a huge name to make their way out early here.
Early damage coming out of Rage, going to be forced to portal out and try to play the life. Meanwhile, Nez taking some heavy damage trying to thirst that kill, but gets the hit marker knowing that the nade is starting to connect. And looks like Trojan holding onto that high ground once again. This is how they won that first individual gunfight. We're going to see if they can do it again. The third mites are in, and the ticking damage is coming in. That is maximum value out of that third mite. So it looks like the other team is going to answer right back with a defensive bombardment.
Either way, Fenerbahce are able to pull away from this one for the time being, and it actually is a lot of resources is extended out here from Trojan with no kills to pick up. They no longer have that defensive bombardment to play with, and this is a big region to defend. As a result, they might be punished, but now Rats coming up from behind. Fenerbahce now pinched between the 2 squads here. That's another defensive bombardment thrown at this squad, as that'll be it for Huskies.
Rats ratting it out at the moment, trying to sandwich his teammate, waiting for those open bits of damage to get that early damage in and force that health battle for them to then play on it and get aggressive. You have to have that gunplay in these situations like this. 15 squads still, that bridge heavily being contested, and Phoenix Legacy wanted to get involved. I think he's gonna chuck a couple of nades, get that little damage. It looks like they want to get involved in something, but they're still somewhat comfortable where they are at the moment and getting all of the intel possible.
Right, but remember, like I brought up from earlier, they are going to be playing the low ground here, going to be forced to make their way up at some time. They do have the Valkyrie through life and to potentially rotate through the skies, and surprisingly, Phoenix Legacy have pulled it off twice before and looked good at doing so, so I hold praise coming into this 4th game that they may be able to do it again. Sobs, though, pressured back, using full shielding there from afar, and that's what I'm talking about when I say you don't really have the angles to work with being where you're at.
And the one thing that scares me, that again, the low point of interest and the low areas to hold down is not only that, but one thing that we're noticing here is there's so much open field. So if you want to transition from one area to another, as that hill was starting to move to round 5 and final, you're going to be contested. You're going to be free damage if you don't have, I guess, a Wraith or a Gibby to try to close in on some of that spacing. You are going to be ripped apart, and there are still so many teams here. The bubbles coming in, they're starting to close the gap, but the wingman shots are looking good. Not good enough for Solo Q to come out on top. Game of Drones looking good.
Now, Fenerbahce, they're the ones who find those successful kills on a solo Q Ghost, and it's definitely got to feel good, especially given their position within that top 10, denying them a realm to continue existing. That will keep them on their way, pushing this one forward towards those Pro League qualifier finals. Now Trojan, though, we make our return back to this squad, who still holds faith on this bridge here. They have been forced back. Looks like the Rat squad continue to aggress upon them, as well as anyone else who might be coming up from that low ground. Even still, don't want to give this one up. He takes to the sky up here, has that alternator, but unable to find a single source of damage there from that sightline. But it's the massive missiles from behind, and now the full launch from above that might provide there, but couldn't quite get the entire rip-off.
It has been really impressive to me how long Trojan have been able to hold this area on the map. They've made plenty of noise, and everybody knows exactly where they are, but they're putting down damage. They're staying alive, winning the individual gunfights that they need to. And I'm surprised our Valkyrie player there didn't take advantage of that frag grenade. They had ultimate damage with that Q. A well-placed flag, a well-placed frag, which we had in our utility, might have been able to do that finishing damage that they needed.
Either way, we've had the zone close in now, and some major names have gone down. Game of Drones and Samsung Morningstars, 2 of our top 4 coming out of Game 3, no longer in play here. Back though, once again, a fan favorite. Trojans still defending their positioning here on this bridge. The zone slowly choking them away here. They've got to be careful. There is the lower ground cart that they could potentially play into action here, but they got to win these fights behind them first.
And starting to ring out here for Trojan. Of course, the high ground is our Valkyrie, maybe going for a little bit of a different angle, but one player's already going down. It's Furbanacci putting the cross map shots here. The 30-30 repeater is getting value. They already have the banner for Draconian, so I'm not sure they're going to be able to revive him just yet. Meanwhile, they're sitting at a fantastic spot for now.
Ooh. Makes the rotation in here, able to find a little bit of shielding, but quickly punished there, down to 1 hit of flesh. Gonna have to run back. The Fenerbahce squad now pressured from all sides, as Trojan will be the one to take down. Full medkit found. Gotta be real quiet hiding upon this corner, but is quickly found out by SSD there, successfully making the rotation in from the side of your system. Maybe, I believe that could be Trojan on the outside there. Yes, it is. They're taking successful fights here against Phoenix Legacy, and that'll be it for Phoenix Legacy, as Trojan just barely continues to keep the dream alive. Piggy putting it out with that wingman, but as he tries to portal through here, it's going to be the zone that kills him. High Society still within this card here, only 1 member left standing. SSD still retains a little bit of control, I believe, underneath, but there's still some full squads from across the line here that we haven't gotten the opportunity to see yet.
Let me tell you, Cybok might be the final player alive here for High Society, but the damage that he's doing is about the value of 2 or 3 players. I'm not sure if they know how many players are in that base based on how much damage that he's putting out here. As we switch on board now with Uprising, who are in a cross map shot. If they can get that early damage, maybe they can collapse, but now they're finally seeing that that player is by himself, and that's easy kill points if they want to collapse on him.
I believe we've got Uprising, ZBW, High Society, and the Rats all left standing. SSD did just fall there as 5th. High Society, Cybek, the 1 remaining member, going to go down as a result. So now, once again, 2 squads here, yes, pulled from our Pro League this time around, defending their chances, and both crucially need points here. Neither really standing in the top 10 right now.
ZBW in good position at the moment. That Wraith player going to be forced to portal in, trying to get in. Looks like they're able to get on top of the car, but the damage is coming in, so he tries to go back out, but it looks like our Wraith is going to go down. ZBW not making any mistakes, because if you give any team an inch, they will take them out. Excellent plays coming out of ZBW to defend that base.
EMEA still retain control here of the cart, but with that zone slowly closing behind them, they will be forced to move in here in just a moment. They're going to hold on for as long as they can. Same with regards to rats from underneath here. Uprising, they might not have much cover to work with. Being pinned in the middle of these two squads, though, could provide dangerous. It's going to be rats that make the first move. Uprising already taken low. 2 members only left standing with no shield to their name. YY going to tick down due to the gas, as now ZBW pull their way out, take advantage of the third party, and find their way to victory.
ZBW coming out on top. There's multiple players that wanted to challenge them when they were in that van, in that base, but they fended it off with the excellent shots coming in and the ultimate intel coming out of our crypto player. Great job by ZBW.
We didn't get really the opportunity to keep track of a majority of these teams coming into our final circle. The first time seeing them being the final round right there. So I cannot really go out on a limb here to say what the performance looked like for ZBW coming into this. What I can tell you, though, is that their performance right now, overall across the entire Pro League qualifiers, they need this win, right? They're sitting with Sun, or at least my apologies, outside of that top 10. The real question, though, they were there for quite some time. I know that, and the fact that they didn't pop up within the kill feed much leaves me to question how many points they were actually able to pick up being as far north as they were.
A fairly quiet game coming out of ZBW, and a huge win at that. But you know, when you're desperate for those points, sometimes you have to get a bit aggressive. And the question that we have here is, did they do enough to really make them a threat on the leaderboard? You're obviously going to find out very soon. But still, I don't want to take anything away from them. ZBW, fantastic win at that, and I'm excited to see them. There's still some games left here, about 2 games left, and I can't wait to see how they progress going forward.
For us here on Desk, once again, going to be making our way towards that break to bring you the leaderboard that will hopefully answer those questions. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming at you live once again, bringing you into our Pro League qualifier action here at our winners bracket. It's a short break, and we know it because we're about to make our way into our leaderboard here coming out of Game 4. Let's see how teams like ZBW, Uprising, and Rats truly fare.
Yeah, I surveyed the chat, and the chat said we want less breaks, we want more action, and here we are here to deliver that here at game time. Looking at the scoreboard, ZBW able to pull off 19 points and 7 kills. So, I mean, they were obviously doing a bit of damage there, going into that final round where they were able to steal away 3, but coming out on top with a full 19 points. But not far behind them was Rats. 15 points and 8 kills to go in with it. So ZBW and Rats kind of the highlights of that game. And we're going to see how that shakes up the overall leaderboard in just a moment.
Right. Phoenix Legacy still retains their first place spot, but not far behind are a lot of familiar names. Uprising continue to bolster themselves after placing third in that game, now shooting up into an easy third place position, only 10 points behind, usurping that spot. ZBW notably though, now sitting in 7th. They kick out Fenerbahce here from the top 10.
Man, Phoenix Legacy, I mean, they've been quietly just ever since that huge game 1 placement where they had, again, 29 points in game number 1 alone. They've been quietly just adding points to their total and holding on to first place, but there are multiple hungry squads that are right on their tails. If they don't put the pedal to the metal, somebody might be able to usurp them or move up above, just like Uprising, who I know who are absolutely hungry, and Morning Stars, who have been playing good, consistent Apex.
Right. And you know what? Those Uprising, especially, that was my dark horse. We got into the day, and the very first team that you did ask me about that I said, you may not be expecting a great performance out of them, but you sincerely got to watch out. They've changed. They've shown improvement here, and there you go. Now sitting in 3rd, they're just a click away of securing their spot here into our finals. And I will admit, there is a lot of points that have been accumulated now for some of those top tier teams. It'll be very hard to take away their top 10 position. So we're starting to kind of get to see the comfortable nature of them, knowing that they already have top 10 secured to make their way into finals. Obviously, we don't want to see anyone let up, but maybe they get a little bit more lenient here coming into our games 5 and 6 in comparison to those who are truly fighting still, backs up against the wall, need those points.
Yeah, you are right. You actually did pick Uprising as your dark horse squad. I remember you talked about one of their specialties being zone prediction and how they're able to navigate through each and every one of those zones. Why don't we talk about Phoenix Legacy and how they've been able to hold on to first place? What are they leaning towards? Is it that gunplay? Is it that IGL? In your opinion, what is leaning to Phoenix Legacy's continued success going from game to game?
That's a tough one here. Phoenix Legacy has seen some serious improvement, especially compared to what they had to deal with. Coming into the Valkyrie meta, they had some troubles really adapting and playing into it, like a lot of the other teams that are currently low here from the Pro League, but I think they've found what works for them here. Sabs is an incredible fragger that can take advantage of any situation, and she makes good on any 3v3 action here. And while we haven't seen the most ultimate performance in comparison to game 1 out of games 2 through 4 here, they still managed to retain at least a position into that top 10 time and time again. And yes, that's not a lot of points, but when you associate that on top of the kills that they are assuming there, even without the positioning to bolster themselves, they continually rack up at least they rack up at least a consistent amount that will push them and retain their position in first here.
And I want to talk about Sabs, because being one of the only female competitors that are in this qualifier right now, like, that is huge. I mean, as much as Junk as a lot of female competitors that are coming into some of these scenes, esports scenes, whether it be Call of Duty, Halo, or even Apex. It's really nice to see a shining light. I'm sure that she's going to be an inspiration to multiple other female competitors that want to step in and get on one of these top teams and show what they got, because we need more female representation in esports, whether that be players, whether that be on-screen talent. And I feel like Apex has kind of been one of the leaders when it comes to bringing on female talent on all aspects. Again, whether it comes to that production, when it comes to that players, we welcome everybody to come into Apex and make sure they have a safe environment to go through. So big ups to her, and I hope that she's again a shining light, a beacon onto other female competitors that are looking to compete at this level and even further.
And you know what? Never forget her and Phoenix Legacy. Well, you know what? They're kicking ass today. So they can take names, find their way to finals, and hopefully continue to retain their spot and go on to influence, like you said. Past that, though, I am going to put this one out there. It's a nice factoid. There are currently only 3 squads from Pro League in our top 10, right? You've got Rats, Uprising, and Phoenix Legacy. Other than that, the rest are assumed by Challenger Circuit teams here. I'm not saying they're better, but the facts currently do not lie, Tony.
Hey, there's one thing I promise you. I've been lied to plenty of times in my life, but numbers and facts do not lie. And I'm loving seeing that, especially, you mentioned Rats being one of those squads. I remember we talked a little bit backstage. You said some have said that going into this new meta, they've been having troubles finding a little bit of success going into it, because they're a heavily third-party team that want to get into that action, but they are right here showing off what they got. And they've been playing fantastic Apex. Every time we have them on screen, I feel like they're making good decisions. It's only a matter of time before they steal away a big win as well, going into our final 2 games.
Yeah, but they've got to be careful. In the top 10 here, they are not of the most secured position. Teams like Phoenix Legacy and Uprising are definitely further up here. Rats, they still got to fight for their life. So when I talk about that leniency that I brought up here just a moment ago, sadly, I don't think the Rats are going to be able to take any breaks, Tony.
Well, you know what? That's Apex, baby. You can't take any breaks. You give an inch, and I promise you a team is going to take a mile. You talked about it before, how SSD sticking to their guns, knowing what works, and eventually they flew up the scoreboard as well. Anything could happen, especially how tightly contested these scores are. Going into Game 5, I want to see some good fundamental Apex, and so far we've seen that. I mean, going into a lot of these later zones, we're seeing, 15, 16 squads? Like, I don't know how that's even possible, that this many squads can fit in such small zones, but they've managed to do that, and I'm sure game number 5 is going to be no different.
No different whatsoever. What will be potentially different, though, is the pacing and style of gameplay that we see out of some of these teams. We talk about entities like High Society, who currently doesn't hoist a place in that top 10. This is those markings that you kind of have to really ramp it up here. You need to be picking up as much KP as possible, maybe play it like 1872, rotate out towards zone, and look for as many kills as you want, because the points really are starting to tick down and matter here. So expect more risks. I'm not saying we won't see as many squads set up here into these final moments, but you're definitely going to see more active play.
And one thing I'm kind of surprised about is that we've seen 2 zones kind of pull over towards that geyser area, yet once again we're dropping in and nobody's taking advantage of moving over towards geyser. Like, I think it's a decent spot as far as loot, and there's multiple ways to get in and out of it. So if you need to get out of a bad situation or transition into a better one, I'm a fan of geyser. How do you feel about geyser in general as a point of interest?
I would go out on a limb to disagree here. I think Geyser is a little choked out in comparison to points, and your only real option is up through Fragment, which can be a major problem to play through, or into Lava Siphon, which is also extremely dangerous due to its central position. Heading towards Big Mod usually doesn't net you anything given how zones tend to play out. As a result, teams won't typically land there due to the fact that it requires much more control going into their next location. right? So that's why we don't currently see anyone there today, or at least that's my theory why. For now, though, we do get the opportunity to see that secondary zone already here. It will be pulling towards the tree area. This is the first time we get to see a zone into the southwest here today, and I'll have plenty to say once that one closes out, but teams like 1872, Click, All Planned, rest assured, definitely feeling good right now.
You know, I'm just a Loba main trying to steal from the vault. That's all I am. So
Oh, that's why you landed. I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, it all makes sense now.
I'm a little selfish, but I'm sorry. I tried to hide it, but you sniffed it right out of me, Ben. Ben, you sniffed it right out. Meanwhile, Solo Q Goats are trying to sniff out some extra loot as they're looking to take on the trials.
Well, you know, something they start out with every single time, and they continue to do so. No surprise there. That's the position that they've dropped quite literally all Pro League long here. So to see it once again. For now, though, look towards some of these other teams. Here's to see what rotations are to be had. Definitely a slower game. We look towards ZBW, our team that just won Game 4, and they're already looking to hold central position within this zone. They haven't retained completely far south. They've got to take a little pit stop here at the last remaining building within the lava siphon area. Past that, I expect them to stay towards this high ground, play a little bit more out there towards that west where you get the upper range to look over the valley instead of just sit within this building.
And they're not being contested whatsoever, so all of this loot coming out of Lava Siphon is just there for the take, and not a single player going to be walking out of here with white armor or even a lack of ammo or utilities there. Lava Siphon is pretty darn good when it comes to the loot, speaking of which, so is this area right here, and the question is, will Huskies, I mean, they've gone out and challenged every single time. The question is, will they be challenging this team right here, who are also rotating out, utilizing the balloon, but the cutoff is coming in, and looks like we're about to get aggressive. We're about to see an engagement.
Oh, and they're split completely here. Huskies landing right on top. Curious to see who this might be. Potentially All Planned or Click Esports. We know they've been landing here all game long. But surprisingly, it's Second Porteya down in the south here for taking their own fight against Click. So that answers that question there regarding what we just saw a second ago. All Planned, who were the ones who just Valk ulted, now making rotations, hearing the shots in this trade, and it's a great snipe from the longbow here to find the drop they need onto Null from Second Porteya. I think that puts them down 2 members there. Yeah.
And Ezzy forced to rotate out and going to try to play their life, but there's multiple players that are hunting down, forced to go right back to the portal and having nowhere to go. This is not looking good for Ezzy. Eventually, he's going to go down.
Yeah. Sitting one hit away from potentially it all ending here. You definitely don't want to see this from Second Porteya, especially knowing the fact that this squad currently sits within the topper or upper regions of taking this one away from Phoenix Legacy. And I know position doesn't quite matter. You only retain a 1-point difference from your placement coming out of the winner's bracket there. But with All Planned just sitting here away, they still can't quite pick that one up.
Ezzy being one of the hardest kills in Apex history right there, ratting it out beautifully, and might be able to get away with their life. Looks like that team actually stopped to loot a bit onto Null's body, so I'm not sure if Ezzy is going to go down. Ezzy might be able to get away and rat it out. Meanwhile, Phoenix Legacy, the question is, are they going to rat it out, or are they going to fight back, because they're in a bit of contention here?
We've seen these guys pull through any situation in terms of fighting out teams on rotation, right? That was exactly how they won out in Game 1, so I wouldn't be surprised if they take any kind of fight. I will say, though, first squad to fall of the game, Huskies. We saw their early rotation with the Valkyrie ult coming down there towards our eastern region. It fell here. As a result, 18 left, still plenty of Apex to behold there, but definitely does not look good for the Huskies, as yes, they're not within the top 10 right now.
and you're seeing Rondon and Jewel start to actually swap armors there. The reason why is because Rondon was able to upgrade those shields utilizing that 30-30 repeater and the extra arm shield coming out of Gibby to get as much damage as possible. Once he got to purple, unselfishly saying, I'm going to pass this purple shield over towards my teammate and then upgrade their shields as well, because he's in perfect position to do so with that 30-30. So great unselfish plays coming out of them.
1872, this is the team that typically lands here in tree, already in position up of the back end here. You've got ZBW, who instead of opting to stick around the lava siphon area, has made their way to hold out right above the tunnel here. It'd be definitely dangerous, especially since the backside has yet to be cleared, a location that 1872 currently looks upon. High Society, though, a team that is just a click away from being within the top 10, already here as well, so looking to hunker down.
Let's check out this way.
High Society looking good. So is Morning Stars at the moment, but the hill is starting to close in. Luckily, it's only round number 1, so not too much here, but you want to get a centralized location. You want to pick and choose your battles here. So the moment that hill closes in, they're going to be going into a beacon quick, trying to think 2 steps ahead and find out where they're going to be pulling, which you see Phoenix Legacy jumping right onto that.
EMP down here, going to potentially push them out of this building. It's a major point of real estate that any team could take advantage of, but it's not low enough just yet there. Oh, and we get a nice look at what will be our 4th zone here. Plenty to say about this one. You've got all of tree within play, right? And I'm going to set this one up now, and it might come back, especially as we make our way to those final closing moments. I love tree. I think once you get into some of those buildings, it can be one of the best places to hold through rounds 1 through 4. But once you get to the 5 and the final zone closing, those buildings become more of a detriment to squads who hoist themselves inside, because usually a lot of the entrants in lines of sight are no longer available, and teams that have been standing up outside of tree actually get the opportunity to take advantage of your exit of those buildings. And usually, or quite literally, I've played this game, my apologies, I've casted this game for quite some time, and I've never seen a single squad finish or find their way through a building and tree and then win as well. For now, though, we look towards We Love Shotgun. They've got to get moving, but to do so, they've also got to move Zito.
Yeah, a little bit of a disconnect here. Luckily, with Apex, you can come right back in so they can just be safe for just about 1.5 minutes. I'm sure that player's gonna be right back in. But you know what? You just dropped some knowledge on us when it comes to tree. Let me tell you, I've been wondering why I've been losing my final circles, and I feel like going towards those back buildings where the beacon is so good. But you know, you said towards that late game, it tends to actually not be well, as the team over towards Harvester is looking to make quick work
That's
of
Phoenix.
We Love Shotgun.
Phoenix Legacy finally finding themselves down from the north, quickly picking up 2 here as they make their way through Harvester. They pull out toward the east here. We also have an engagement between Solo Q Goats and one other squad who currently hoist a position ahead of them. Solo Q need to take successful fight here. It's SSD, one of our big winners here today, and already Ani Soaz looking low. Gonna have to go for the full bat. Unlucky also down now. Full knock here. They know they have the numbers advantage. And Shiv is back on the Bangalore. Let's see if the chaos from the smoke prevents them from going out here now. They are able to find the bang, keep this one running through the valley, and Shiv is down. One remaining member here from the Solo Q Goats roster, and they've decided to run all the way to staging. As a result now, Phoenix Legacy, they hear, they taste the blood, they smell it in the air, and now SSD, this might be it for them as well. Dave going to be running towards the God spot here on the hill, but no way can hold it for the time being, and as a result, SSD going to be our 17th squad down.
Meanwhile, you're seeing Unlucky trying to crawl their way back in. Maybe Diff can pull off the res here, but as you said before, Shiv is not only down, but also turned into a banner as well. We're going to see how Diff likes to play this out. Looks like he is going to try to gravitate over towards recovering that banner and also getting his teammate up, which is even more important. Unlucky, welcome back to the lobby.
Able to find himself back into a position to play through here. Gonna have to quickly pull off that heal as the second zone closes in. The problem is solo queue goats, they're gonna be playing directly into the clutches of Phoenix Legacy. And we know how slow Phoenix Legacy likes to approach these circles, completely taking advantage of. You actually got the opportunity to see them right there for the split second that Diff passes by. Lifen spotting this one out, going to be forcing the dome down now as a result. Takes to the skies, gets that high angle as we see him run for the tunnels. This is a big split to behold here from solo queue goats. Phoenix Legacy, they know they're low though. They know they need to get out of this zone. They've got some time to loot up here, but rotations will come through inevitably. Maybe give solo queue goats the chance to find some respite.
You can tell that Sobs wanted all of the sauce right there. She was ready to go
look at
off,
that.
especially only 2 damage away from getting over towards that red shield. Literally half of a shot somehow it connects. If you just breathe on somebody, she's up into that red shield, and she wanted it, but sadly, she knew that the hill was falling in, so their best play is to rotate out, and that's the difference between the top level competition and some of the, maybe like the diamond rank players like myself, where, you think you have to get that KP, you think you have to get those kill points, but you got to be thinking 1, 2, and sometimes 3 and 4 steps ahead, and that would not have been an advantageous fight for them to take. Meanwhile, Trojan are getting into a much more advantageous fight, and they have to win this if they want to hold on to this position.
For now, definitely can play towards their favor, but they're going to have to make a heavy rotation around that valley and in towards tree. Quite literally the center of it. We get a notion of that 5th zone already, and it's not going to be pulling outside of tree. It's going to be playing directly within those buildings there. If I have to tell you a location I typically love here regarding that, I don't think the side valley here, you've got what Trojan currently controls. If you keep heading up through here, that tunnel right above it can be very nice to play in terms of that range advantage, but it looks like it's just out of zone range here. The center of tree there might be your best bet, especially as that zone closes in and it will force teams out of the buildings out there towards the northeast. For now though, Trojan, defensive bombardment now. This is the second time we have seen Trojan expend that defensive bombardment and be unable to pick up the responding kills from it. Now, from behind the north, it looks like they've got 2 members here potentially looking to capitalize. Looks like Trojan might be pinched. Yeah, I like this. The Valkyrie ult to get themselves out of this sticky situation. Where they will go is a big question as no! Piggy falls and they can't make their way over the wall? Well, one of them can't. Wraith's gonna fall back down here, unable to utilize that bracelet in time, and as a result, Nez finds his way on the other side here in just as sticky of a situation. 16th down, that's gonna be it for Trojan, as half solo queue and half Phoenix pick up those kills.
As a Loba main, I feel the pain of getting the bracelet off, doing everything you can to try to get out of. You can't throw the bracelet there, and you bouncing right back and going down immediately. Sadly for Trojan, they're not going to last very long here. Meanwhile, solo queue goes as a duo, has to fend off a crypto EMP.
They do it!
Oh,
They shoot it down before it can get off! Well, either way, that's still a 3-man that they have to face into here. Big thermite down, but it doesn't quite hit. A nice rotation from Unlucky, though, will find the first knock here. Shadows down. Unlucky going to have to take some time, heal back up with that gold cell available. Defensive bombardment, thrown responses. Unlucky will fall. Diff now the only remaining member here of solo queue goats, standing the test against, I believe, the full 2-man here from Uprising. Into the dome they go. YY and Krenzen looking low. Through the back, they're able to pick this one up and keep themselves on the track towards victory.
yeah, I mean, that was a 2v3 situation for solo queue goats, so it wasn't looking good for them. I mean, they got the first knock, which kind of made me a believer right there, but sadly, Uprising were just too good to not take advantage of those numbers, and eventually they take solo queue goats down. Meanwhile, Rats Mania going all the way down to 1 shot. That might have been more like half a shot right there. As they're able to queue out, stay alive, and now Rats are back to fully loaded. But will our opposing team get aggressive on them? Let's find out.
Rats here, though. 30 seconds away till zone close. This is not a good place to be. They will be forced to rotate. I'd like to see them be somewhere closer to, say, T-Rex, who currently hoists themselves in the center of tree. And while it's very difficult, I mean this, it is probably one of the hardest places to difficult to cross World's Edge here. in the middle of a zone. Once the zone gets to your final closing, you have so much spacing in terms of the advantage on those low ground buildings that will be in play in that final zone that whomever controls Central Region will more than likely win the game. Now we look back towards All Plan. They've not had their full 3-man roster for quite some time, and name a better combo. It's Click coming in there. Target gonna go down as he's spotted out from behind, potentially bringing us down here with no 1872 left in play. All Plan now, only one remaining member.
Yeah, great Peacekeeper shots to finish off that squad right there, but sadly not able to get away with their life. But here comes Click Esports. All 3 members are flying in, drone detected, but I don't think they care. They smell blood, and they're looking to pounce. And mind you, we have a kill leader. It's going to be Pochi.
Oh, and we saw Pochi pick up the majority of his kills at the very start of this game, hence why he sits at that kill leader position here. ZBW, they've just fallen. Keep that in mind now as Click. The dome will be coming down here soon. T-Rex is right above them, so they've got to be careful, playing right against the wall of this tree. And that's T-Rex right there trying to find their way up the steps, but it doesn't matter. Kearney turns it around with that flatline to bring him down.
Now Click Esports are really in trouble. Pochi gonna be by himself going in for the challenge on the Valkyrie, but not able to come out on top. Click Esports is going to go down. Crazy X3 holding on to this base for dear life, but they're in an engagement as well. 10 squads remaining, 24 players on the map. Things are getting spicy.
Definitely spicy here as now T-Rex, they found that successful kill, continue to retain their position, and more than just that, pick up additional kills. Why? Falling in response to them trying to make their way out of tunnel. That's that uprising squad. Fenerbahce, we've seen them pick up a few kills here, just sparingly here across the board. Haven't wiped a full squad yet, but continue to retain control completely alone there towards that southern region here. They're going to make their move, potentially fight off against what is that T-Rex squad as Dippities finds another kill.
High Society luckily having the Kraber in hands. Normally a hyper-aggressive squad looking to slow things down, take advantage of this Kraber in the hands of Denze. The Nades are trying to fly in, making it really tough. Thermite blocking all the angles here, but High Society still in a good position, not forced to engage just yet, and lines of sight are starting to be created.
They have some time. That zone isn't quite pushing them out just yet. They get to play around that building. Uprising, remember, they did just lose their one member. Now they defend against the car here. Good response found on both Yuste and Cronus. Only the one last standing from Crazy 3 will fall, but as a result, they give their position away, and with no cover to defend against, they're going to go down here. T-Rex, they still hold position here. Our eastern side of the tree central point. That gas is pressuring whoever exists beneath them.
Game of Drones having a players over towards height advantage. They're not looking good with that low ground. High Society still looking good. They're actually going to loot up just a bit here. But now the shots are starting to ring out. There's a team literally right above them. How can they stay alive here?
I don't know how they can stay alive here. Now Fenerbahce, they're the ones who are right underneath T-Rex, and they want to keep this area to themselves. A full drop found on Kim. Now Clutch to find his way through with the Mastiff to keep this one rolling forward there. Picks that one up in response. Still, though, only one remaining member as Roger Bodger's going to be the one to actually finish this one off from Game of Drones. Now they potentially make their way up, and yes, will remove the rest of the Fenerbahce squad. Phoenix Legacy still alive and looking good.
Rising from the ashes does Phoenix Legacy. All 3 players currently having red shields, but still a team right above them that has to be that has to be dangerous here. They know at any point in time the team can actually take advantage.
Nox
like
gas.
dropping a caustic Nox, or the nades are coming in. Phoenix Legacy are finally starting to feel the pain of their positioning.
It might be painful here as they do dodge out a majority of that damage. T-Rex unable to really throw down the way they want to here. Pretty sure we've got at least the 3 full man rosters and the 1 left standing here for High Society. I believe it's Game of Drones, T-Rex, and Phoenix Legacy, but I may potentially be wrong about my Game of Drones call out here. Either way, Phoenix Legacy pressured by the closing of this zone, will be forced to move forward here, but T-Rex might be dropping first. If T-Rex drops on top of them and Phoenix takes this fight here, that could spell the end for this roster. I like the fact that they move up, but they're moving right in the clutches of what I believe is Game of Drones. Over the wall, they find their way up in top of this rock here and can't quite get the drops that they want. His Dippities will fall. No, this is high. No, my apologies. That is Game of Drones, so I was particularly correct there.
And Sobs was trying to stay back and try to make that team to falling in, and somehow it didn't work out exactly the way
T-Rex
she
is
wanted,
down.
but she's still staying alive here. Game of Drones now. Everything's, all eyes are on them. They have to push forward. 71 with the Peacekeeper. A player all the way to ultimate height. They're climbing up. They want Phoenix Legacy. 2 squads remaining.
Now, both Phoenix Legacy taking to the skies here. Game of Drones has the control of the low ground, but they're continuing to fall after Phoenix collapses, finding themselves their second victory here in the Pro League qualifiers.
Tell me if I sound like a broken record. Phoenix Legacy in a non-advantageous position. Phoenix Legacy recovery and answering back. Phoenix Legacy winning their individual gunfights, and Phoenix Legacy coming out on top.
I mean, you can't spell that any differently there. And trust me, you're not a broken record. You're just spouting the facts that need to be heard here, Tony. Phoenix Legacy were nowhere in a good position for that one. And the craziest thing is they turned something bad. Low ground, mishapped control, T-Rex constantly keeping them at their wits' end with constant gas, constant pressure from above. It did not matter. They found the successful fight. They took down T-Rex, continued to assume that position, and then once they were down, they took the high ground. Once that was in their control, it was done. It was done, Tony.
You know, I'm the only thing I'm worried about right now is that I'm here in North America, so you know when I go and buy that Phoenix Legacy merch, it's gonna cost an arm and a leg to come overseas with the shipping and whatnot. But Phoenix Legacy have made a fan in me. They are too good to be ignored. I promise you. I'm literally gonna. If you guys see me again casting one of these qualifiers, I'm gonna be in my Phoenix Legacy jersey. I don't even care about being biased. I love this squad.
Well, hopefully they love you too here. They continue to assume off of your major praise coming into Game of 5 here. Remember, you gave them quite a call out prior to the start of this one. And trust me, I think they were listening, Tony. They made good promises to do you well. Either way, we're going to be going towards a short break here before we find out how far and above the gap now exists for our Phoenix squad. Stick around. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be joining you for one last time here on our winners round bracket. This is going into game 6. This is where all the marbles count here. But before we approach our last iteration of World's Edge, we got to see how these teams fare. Let's take a look at the results from game 5. Phoenix Legacy, a massive win, but not as extended as game 1, but still good to put them in a secured position of first.
Yeah, I mean, 21 points, 9 of those being from kill points. So that's literally 3 squads they were able to full wipe. That's quite impressive, if you ask me. Not quite 29, but right then, right there with it. Game of drones. 14 points, 5 of that being kills, able to hold on to second place, but not by much. T-Rex were literally right behind them, just 1 point behind of that game. But the real question is, how did that affect the overall scoreboard? Let's put that on the screen. And Zephyr, why don't you walk us through that?
Absolutely here. We're going to take some time to break this one down, especially because before we move into game 6, we got to make sure who potentially still has a chance to find their way into that top 10. Of course, Phoenix Legacy obviously secured Uprising, second Portaya, probably not much further behind here. Morning Stars, Crazy 3, SSD, ZBW, High Society, T-Rex, Game of Drones, they all still have to work to retain their spot. The names that will follow are the ones that we've really got to watch for. Fenerbahce, Rats, Trojan, 1872, and Solo Q Goats. They all have to find some realm of a remarkable game coming into this 6th and final one, or else they'll be on their way to the losers bracket.
I'm calling it right now.
Okay.
I know for a fact. I'm calling it right now. I know for a fact that either Rats or Trojan, maybe even both, are making it into that top 10. You bring a level of knowledge that is unmatched. Your education of the players and of the meta is out of this world. Your statistics are absolutely amazing.
We're on broadcast. Calm down.
Sometimes I gotta go with my heart, and my heart is telling me that either Trojan or Rats or both are going to sneak their way in. I gotta follow the heart, man.
Well, you wouldn't be too far off. Both of these teams have found major success in the past today alone and are within the position to do so once again here. And the craziest thing is they're 10 or so points off of successfully usurping one of those positions. And I gotta be honest, Tony, it makes me feel bad. This all makes me feel terrible because all of these teams are my babies. I mean, every single one of them are some that I have praised for the last 5 to 6 months. I don't want to see T-Rex. I don't want to see Game of Drones drop out of the top 10. I don't want High Society moving down to the losers bracket where they could potentially lose their position into Pro League. But I don't get a choice in the matter. I'm not the one out there on World's Edge fighting for my life.
I'm still trying to wrap my head on how you gave birth to a T-Rex and a bunch of rats, and I guess we'll figure that out backstage. I guess, but no, there's a lot of hungry players that want to make it into that top 10, but there's also in the same breath that in that top 10, they know what their position is. They're looking at the scoreboard just like we are. They know all they have to do is play good winning Apex, make sure they get those placement points, and when the kills come, make sure that you win those pivotal gunfights. So the same way that there's a lot of hungry teams on the right side of that scoreboard, there's a lot of well-focused and well-knowledge teams on the left side knowing the position that they are in.
If we can get one final opportunity to look at this before we approach our 6th game, if we can bring up the format to explain what will happen to these teams here, however they will place at the end of this one, that would be appreciated. But I'll just go over it, whether it's not on the screen. There we go. The teams, the top 10 that come out of winners round 1 will be advancing towards our final round, and they will accrue some extra points that will already put them above the rest here before anyone else joins them. 10, 9, 8 down, of course. The bottom 10 teams coming out of this match here specifically will be on their way to losers round in just a few hours.
And I'm so happy that you brought that up because I feel like we need to add emphasis to that. If you're looking at the overall leaderboard, you notice that most of these teams are separated by anywhere between 5 and maybe 10 points. Obviously, the first and second place, there's a bit of discrepancy there, but for the most part, the rest of the leaderboard, 5 and 10 points. So those extra advance points going in, coming out of the winners, is going to be crucial going into that final round. Double elimination is nice, but coming out of winners, you still have that advantage.
Well, for one final time, we join you on our winners bracket, World's Edge, once again here. The last opportunity for a lot of these teams to make their impact and secure their spot going into finals tomorrow, well, at least with the extra points here. And that's something that can't be overstated, right? If you go into finals already having a semblance of points to work with, you already feel good knowing that you're probably going to assume one of those top 8 positions, because Phoenix, who more than likely will be finishing first off of this next round, given they have that 20-point gap lead, right, will find their way onto an extra 10 points coming into it. Do you realize that's almost close to picking up one win before it even starts?
I mean, that's what it's all about. But maybe someone could knock out Phoenix in 18th place, and maybe that might open things up. I'm just saying, there's a chance. There's a chance. It may not be. It may not be probable, but it's definitely possible for that to happen. One thing that's possible is that Click Esports once again wanting to engage off the rip.
Yeah, this is where we've seen them fight against all plan time and time again.
One thing that's possible is that Click Esports once again wanting to engage off the rip.
Yeah, this is where we've seen them fight against all plan time and time again here, and they definitely don't want to be going out right now. Click Esports currently sitting in 17th place with 10 points. Would need to assume at least 20 plus a little extra to make sure they find their way into that top 10. So I don't think they're going to be going off the rip just yet, but we definitely do need to see them pick up the pace, because just winning the game wouldn't be enough. They need to also assume at least 3 or 4 squads on their way to victory.
That they do, and you're seeing the nades start to fly in from Shiv. I'm not sure if we saw something that maybe I didn't hear, but they are absolutely ringing out here, and now we're actually seeing where that hill is going to be gravitating towards. And man, and we talked about Click wanting to engage early within Thermal Station, and you're starting to see why. I mean, not only is it a great point of interest with many resources for you to take advantage of, but it's also where that hill is going to be going 2 points from now.
Right, and we'll talk about it really quick here. That location regarding the thermal station area, it's going to be hard southwest. So what that means here is there really is only thermal station to play with. You don't even get a little bit of staging here into that second zone. As a result, a lot of the chokes to the north and towards that east will be very crucial here. What you will see is that many squads will find their way, take up some of the high real estate areas very quickly, and you'll get about 5 or 6 within great position. You got some on the sniper tower, some in the buildings out towards the north, some out in the west, etc. But once those are assumed, everyone else will be holding the line across this entire border there. And as a result, if you're late to the party, you more than likely won't be invited inside.
There's only one thing worse than not being invited to a party, and that's not being invited to a party in Apex. You want to get involved here as Shiv trying to get into a safe area. Luckily, the smokes are in, and that extra speed is going to allow him to stay alive and take as minimal damage as possible. Solo queue goats are a bit in trouble. They are being chased down right now, and the question is, will they be able to get away, or will they turn around and answer back? Meanwhile, T-Rex, having a couple of squads near them, they want to fight for this thermal station position, that early position that you were talking about before. There's only a few points, and only about 4 or 5 teams will be able to take those strong positions here.
Absolutely, and T-Rex definitely needs to have a great game coming out of this one. Same thing with Game of Drones. They're both just 2 points away from being knocked out of the top 10. So while they might have retained some quality games here in the past, this one needs to be star-studded as well here. Game of Drones, though, currently in one of the hardest locations to hold. This is something that you see typically a little bit later on coming into the game, and usually it has two sides to defend, and that can be very disadvantageous. For now, though, 72 making their way in. It's against Click Esports here. They need to pick up as many kills as possible given their positioning. Only one remaining member left standing, being this Gibby here, and he's already just one hit away from being down and out. Nilbat putting in the majority of that work with his car in flatline there.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new kill leader, and his name is Nilbat. And you talked about off the screen how strong 1872 are. They're a hyper-aggressive team. They love to get into your face, and sometimes that can maybe cost them a game or two if they end up getting a little bit too aggressive.
Yeah.
But if there's any team on the map that no team wants to go mano-a-mano with, it's probably 1872, because they're willing to take you down even if they take down themselves.
Ooh, absolutely. And they need a good game here, right? They're not within the top 10. Fenerbahce, another squad that also isn't faring as well as they could be. They're currently within that thermal station area. You see them taking up the house just across the bridge there. But they're low. They're taking massive damage, and they could be punched out, and that's not great, right? If Fenerbahce go down here, they would no longer be invited to our winners fight. They have to fight through the losers bracket. Game of Drones now, though, having to defend the spot I said was incredibly hard to do so. Already domed down, they've got pressure from behind. They have to find success here, or this will be all but over.
You know, I was just about to say how well they're actually playing it, but then another team is charge rifling them in the back, so it's so hard for you to gain any kind of momentum when there's multiple teams literally seeking you out. High Society forced to back down, all three players currently having the blue shields, and notice they also have a Wraith in their composition. So when it comes to getting aggressive, I would imagine Denze is going to be leading the charge, putting down those shots, and if they can open up that alley, the rest of the team will collapse. If not, he could always portal back and ultimately play his life and try to get a different angle. Most IGLs with high firepower and high gunplay love playing Wraith.
Absolutely. And Denze, he has a little bit of leniency here. I know Dia's not currently with us, but he did want me to bring up that the fact that Denze, who we all know is the high-tempo fragger for this team, has slowly been able to shift responsibility and take some more, at least feel like the rest of his squad can step up to the plate and perform just as well here. So not just the composition playing to his favor, but the fact that he knows he has the rest of his squad to support and continue to accelerate whatever movement they pull off is something that pushes them to perform above the rest here. So
Enemy in the distance.
nice tidbit to come through from Rafael Ruiz.
We love Dia in this house. Let me tell you.
It's a Dia house here.
A great caster and even better person. And this is kind of what I was talking about before, especially going into game number 6. All planned have changed up their composition. Now we have a Ash and a Fuse in our composition here. So that tells me that they understand they have to get aggressive. They understand they have to commit to some of these gunfights that they normally wouldn't. And they still have a Caustic if they want to hold down an area or two. But where's the recon here? How are we going to find out where the zones are moving if you are all planned?
They have a lack of information to work with. They're going full pedal to the metal here, which is understandable. Currently sitting at 16th place. They need at least 20 to assume what is currently the point. So think about that. They need more than 20. They need something even better than that. And that's only performance that we've seen out of our final finishers here today. Now, to go all in, go for the full aggression with the Fuse combo with the Ash, it's questionable, especially because they no longer have that info to rely on. They've got to be absolutely perfect if they want to find their way into the top 10. And even if they don't, of course, they still have that chance to play through the losers bracket, but you don't want that. You don't want to leave any leniency up in the air to stand.
You definitely want to make it into the finals via the winners bracket. You have that advantage, and on top of that, you don't want to leave anything up to chance. So with 18 squads on the map, 54 players here, it is do or die for most of these squads here. And we have Yusei coming out of crazy with the Peacekeeper. I thought he was ready to fight, but looks like he said he wants to back down. He's not happy with that position. And you know what? Playing your life is most important. So high IQ play, backing down, but looks like Cronus going to pick up exactly where he left off.
Take some time, play that one out. High Society, though, You see them picking up some great kills here in our feed against Uprising. This would put them in a great spot. Keep the dreams alive. They're able to get the full thirst. They're on to I believe on to Crimson. Oh, they get the full thirst onto both. I'm sorry. Just not quite looking here. Shadow finds his way back in towards the center of the thermal station, but this is not easy to hold here. Yes, those gas canisters will work for just a moment, but they're in perfect position to be removed in just a second flat. High Society, though, I do think they don't want to give up their position in what is kind of that scaffolding out towards the south, and as a result, they're not going to go for the chase. They've already know they put Uprising in a poor position, so they're not going to waste time with the concept.
Game of Drones still in that position that you said was really hard to hold down, and it looks like they're taking some damage from multiple areas here, but they've been able to stay alive, so good for them. The question is for how long. Still 18 squads remaining. As that hill starts to close in, you might see more than 1 or 2 squads start to collapse on them, and they may lose this area and this choke point, like you said, it being so hard to hold down. Only time will tell. Still having that Wraith, Valkyrie, and Gibby composition, so luckily Gibby might be able to create some space, get them out of a situation, and so does Wraith's portal in case they get contested, as Trojan now getting into a huge contention at that. Multiple bombardments coming in. They're able to stay alive, and now they're grinding.
Whoa, but more importantly, that's it for Solo Q Goats. The Solo Q Goats roster is no longer in play here, and if we're going off of what was assumed in these last rounds, currently sitting at 15th, I'm sorry, but finishing 18th is not enough to find your way into the finals here. Solo Q Goats might be our first team confirmed. Oh no! Thank God they showed us the rat. Thank God DiffQ's still alive. We'll see how long he lasts there, but I'm just saying, going down soon here. Being that one member left standing is not going to be enough to push you into the winners finals. And here you go. They're currently at 17 points. They need to assume at least 15 points to find their way into it. Even if that rat stays alive until the very end, I don't think Solo Q Goats are secured anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good for them. They needed to combine placement points with kill points in order to get back into it. It's not looking good, as you said. Meanwhile, Phoenix Legacy are now pushing the drones here, and they're in that spot of death. It looks like Phoenix Legacy are not liking that battle, though. Notice how Valkyrie
comes down
to rotate out, and Game of Drones actually going to alternate right out of there, so they held on that spot for dear life just to rotate out.
Well, we'll see where they land here, and you know what? I can completely understand it at this point. It's too much pressure. You've got to make your moves. You haven't picked up any squads there, and with someone like Phoenix Legacy rotating into you, just give it up. There's plenty more real estate here, at least on the eastern end, to potentially work with for now. So Game of Drones, they relocate, find a little bit of safety, but they're going to give that one over and away to Phoenix Legacy. Still have to worry about teams from behind potentially coming up on Legacy, but definitely a squad that can defend that major chokehold. I will say, though, we are at 16 squads left. Solo Q Goats did officially get... They were taken out. DiffQ was found.
Let's go here.
And I did just notice something on 1872. They're actually rocking a car and a flatline and only having 121 bullets in their pocket here to play with, so they're going to need some ammo really fast. I'm not sure if they have any light bullets to swap out that car, but notice how when he switched to the car, he kept those heavy bullets out. So that might be a struggle coming out of that player from 1872 that I want to pay attention going forward to. Either way, Target is taking some heavy damage, losing all of his shields. Trojan holding on to this high ground here. I'm loving the position coming out of them, but they are still open, so many teams can create an angle on them, and one nade or one bombardment comes in, and that might spell trouble here for Trojan.
Trojan need a massive game because they're currently not within that top 10. Piggy, Nez, Wraith, they're all going to drop down here, play the low ground, and while this may not look good, it's more defensible than what they were currently at just a moment ago. Now, the problem is finding a rotation out of here can be pretty much impossible. More than likely, we'll either see something early come out right now because they already know they're in a poor position, or it'll be extended much, much later on when the zone is forcing them out.
Still about 20 seconds left before Trojan are able to get that bubble here, and they're still not in an advantageous position. And with dropping this Loba ult, that's going to let everybody know where they are. Meanwhile, Kramer with the longbow hitting shots, holding down this top view area, still in the open. But either way, I'm still liking the way all plans are playing it, and the Nox gas is in. They're also rocking Fuse as well, so they're going to get aggressive.
Here's the big wombo coming out from this squad. We'll see if they can make this one work. Once that dome is down, this will be all planned action to work with. But from behind, they're still being pressured. Get a little bit of cover for Sirius to get the full revive up, but now they're pinched between two squads here, trying to escape through the lines. You can see them far and off away, but Crazy 3 are quick to clean this one up, and you've got all the other squads picking them up through and through. High Society's got a little bit, Trojan's picking up a little bit. It's a KP present party.
And that's kind of what I was talking about before. I was leaning towards, like, I love the height advantage coming from this area here, but it's still so open. Everybody can catch an angle on you, and that's why Crazy XP recognizes they're gonna portal back, but they're gonna portal back right into another squad. Cronus gonna be the final player alive coming out of Crazy, but most likely he's gonna be hunted down. There are just too many players still on the map.
Way too much to handle here, as that is SSD coming out from behind to close this one off. And rest assured, Crazy 3 currently sitting at 5th, could manage to lose this one, but you don't want to see your points be chucked away here. SSD, they saw that they had rotated out to take the fight in the central position there, and quickly were able to assume the spot they had just left here. It's kind of like, have you ever seen when, what are they called? Hermit crabs change their shells? Well, this is exactly that scenario. They gave up their shell, and another hermit crab came and took it.
Well, we're gonna see who's gonna be able to hold on to that shell for long here. High Society quickly gonna lose another member. Cyback is by himself, and he's out in the open. But hold on, he catches another rat here, so that's gonna be easy elimination coming out of him. He's probably like, where did that guy come from? Easy kill, as it looks like Phoenix Legacy not liking their position here on the high ground, and they're gonna be rotating out. Where will they go? The pings are coming in, and they might be landing on a team to third party in, coming in late from Phoenix Legacy.
They gotta be careful here. 1872 is still looking fairly healthy into this trade, but with these last bits of damage coming out, I don't think they'll be lasting any longer here. Blind as Art already down there. Target gonna be going into the void to extend a little bit of the zone. Gonna be ticking away here, as now Phoenix Legacy have the high ground advantage, like you said, third partying here. But of importance, quickly going down in response there. It's Target from a blow, able to turn that one around there with the EV8. Very surprising. And they actually get the full thirst, so it is a 2-on-2 here. And while Phoenix Legacy have the leniency to lose this one out, 1872 not so much. They need a major win under their belts to reassert dominance here on the leaderboard. So that's why I guess we're seeing such an aggressive turn on play.
And I know for a fact of importance is not happy with that down, especially being instant thirsted there. So that's going to be leaving Lip and Sobs by themselves at the moment. Luckily, they have high ground. They're holding on to the edge of zone. In about 44 seconds, we'll see exactly where that's going to move to. But 1872 are being an absolute nuisance. Luckily, our Valkyrie player does have an Arc Star. So if he can sneak up one more time, launch that Arc Star in there, that could be some early damage. And Rats are taking some damage as well.
Right. We did just see them take out the last remnants of SSD. This is the spot that we saw them hold for such an extended period of time. So now they take that high ground, which is going to be absolutely crucial coming into the final moments of this zone here. Find that Trojan roster. They've already taken the one response. Now a 2v2. Sorbin on the other side here. Flesh to be found, and it's a quick cleanup. That'll be it for Trojan here. And we'll have to check in with the leaderboard later to see where they have fared overall, but they might be finding their way into our losers bracket.
And T-Rex starting to engage as well, despite being down a member here. It doesn't matter. And 1872 also being down one member as well. So multiple teams are kind of broken up here.
Down.
Not many are fully loaded. 1872 trying to put a full squad wipe to rest.
Only one remaining member there of that Phoenix Legacy squad. Game of Drones, T-Rex, they're all finding kills of their own here down as they have to make rotations out from the thermal siphon main area. 1872 continue to find consistent kills. It's going to be Rats that finish off Phoenix from the other side here. Looks like Rats still coming up big as they pick up more kills onto Huskies as well. Roger Bodger finishing off the T-Rex squad there as Oldest goes down. Rats finally wiping out Huskies as well with Circissio. And you know what? We haven't discussed it, but Rats, this is technically their game to win here. If they find success coming out of this one, they might usurp one of the team's positions, potentially someone like High Society or T-Rex who've just gone down right now. Whoa, we're already down 2 squads.
I talked about it before. I had a feeling that Rats were going to sneak their way. They were going to rat their way into the top 10, and most likely they might be able to do so, especially with a big win here, raining down shot. Rats coming out with a big win, coming out on top. Do not doubt them.
Rats in a second flat take away the win here. We went from 5 squads remaining to none in literally less than 5 seconds there, and it looked like there was quite a spread. Either way, that's a massive win to put Rats potentially on their way towards the finals here. They were currently sitting at 12th place with 24 points here. You don't have to assume that many points in that response to find your way forward. I think that's only like 8 or so here.
Wow. Rats needed to clutch up, and they did when it mattered most. It's crazy. Seemingly came out of nowhere. I mean, they must have been holding down and really ratting a position for quite some time and only taking the battles that they absolutely had to take there. I'm sorry, Ben, you got something? Go ahead, Ben.
I just hate, they weren't ratting, man. For once in their life, I just want to say this, they weren't ratting. Those boys were putting up some successful kills all game long, okay? We don't know where they stand on the leaderboard. We're still figuring that one out, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they were massively successful coming out of that game. They picked up probably what was 8 or 9 kills into some of those final moments there. That's my prediction, at least, if my kill feed tracker up here was right. Other than that, though, we'll touch on some of those other squads that managed to slip through there into the final moments of that game. Game of Drones, notably, kind of on the cusp of potentially losing, were able to stick around for quite some time. Same with squads like Second Porteilla, 1872, as well as T-Rex into some of those final moments. Where that will place them, we don't know. It's up there. And by up there, I mean behind the scenes.
Yeah, we got some great people doing the math right now, trying to figure how that leaderboard is going to come out. But man, and also I want to be a big shout out to Phoenix Legacy too, because they had that amazing lead, and we're not letting up. We want to hold on to our first place position. So they were fighting for dear life and actually put on quite a show in that final game as well, before obviously finally being taken out, and Rats coming out on top. The problem is that when the lights are on you and they're brightest, that's when some teams crumble. Pressure can create diamonds or can burst pipes. And in Rats' case, it created diamonds, and they came out on top. They saw the pressure, they took it, and they answered.
Absolutely here. I am curious. This were the 5 teams that I brought up before we approached our final 6 game here. Fenerbahce, Rats, Trojan, 1872, and Solo Q Goats. Now, we do know that Fenerbahce, Trojan, and Solo Q Goats fell relatively easy, and they were down quite soon, so they might not be making their way forward, but maybe Rats and 1872 are looking a little bit more successful. Either way, leaderboards are officially ready. Let's take a look at the scoring here. I believe in just game 6 before overall, and oh my gosh, 1872 and Rats, they put up some numbers.
They dominated, 25 points coming out of Rats. That might have been the second or third highest point total that we've seen through all 6 games. 13 of those coming from kills, but we need to find out how that takes over the whole scoreboard. So you know what? Let's jump right into that overall scoreboard. Zephyr, walk us through it.
Your final top 10 going to be making their way over. Oh, The points, they spell a great story here. Rats, 1872, just barely. The both of them, off of their performance in Game 6, will be on their way here to finals. They'll be joined by teams like Phoenix Legacy, Second Porteria, Uprising, High Society, Morning Stars, Game of Drones, T-Rex, and SSD here. Notably, the teams that were knocked out of our top 10 prior to that game are going to be ZBW and Crazy 3. The rest were already down here, but those two explicitly lost their position here to 1872 and Rats.
1872 coming out ahead with just 1 point. If that doesn't tell you that every life matters in Apex, I don't know what would. Every life, every placement, every kill is oh so crucial for 1872 to literally steal away 10th place. And I called it. I said my heart was telling me something that Rats would have come out on top. And not only did they sneak their way into the left side of the leaderboard, but they actually tied for second place with 49 total points, and that was behind the huge performance of Game 6. Great job to Rats.
Absolutely.
Great job.
Here. And we're going to just kind of discuss some theoreticals, the narrative that now exists coming into it. I know there is a wider margin of Challenger Circuit teams that were within this lobby, but here's the thing. We supposedly have, the 7 pro teams joining us here? Only 3. Less than half were able to make it out and find their way to winners. Phoenix Legacy, Rats, and Uprising. Those 3 will be on their way forward. The rest, though, have to fight their way through the losers bracket. And I gotta tell you, Tony, this system's working, baby. You're getting what they deserve here.
I'm happy about that because I'm not gonna call out any other esports and whatnot, but I'm gonna say there's other esports out there that are like kind of blocking out some of our amateur players from being able to make a name for themselves. So having this qualifier come in, and for everybody, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. If you have a controller, fantastic. Come on by.
Whatever.
Show us what you have. If you have a keyboard, show on by. If you have a Guitar Hero control, whatever it is, PC, it doesn't matter what you have. Come in, show us what you got, and maybe, just maybe, you can earn a spot and play against the pros. I absolutely love this. I think it's so important for Apex Esports to thrive forward, and I'm happy that I can be a small part of it.
One real quick thing before we move on here, I am going to explain it one more time. The top 10 teams we just saw, they'll be making their way, of course, to our finals here. But those who did fall, they still have a chance to push themselves through the Pro League qualifiers. They'll be on our way to losers round 1, where they'll fight off in another 6 matches against the rest of the Challenger Circuit teams that will be joining them here. So plenty of games still left to play. And if I am correct, that'll be starting here at 11 Eastern time, I believe. So not too far away. Not too long here. About a half hour away from our losers bracket joining us. We here on Desto, we appreciate you guys coming out, enjoying the winners bracket, participating in the fun here through these last 6 games. But for now, we're going to be signing off here. I want to give a mad props to Tony Rose coming out on such a short notice to take a fill-in for Dia, who's having troubles of his own. We love him in his own regard, and we hope he can join us here tomorrow for finals. But Tony, massive success. I mean, this guy came in less than 12 hours to fill in for such a massive role here. And so I want everyone to give him a warm congratulations, whatever you want to say in chat, because he's performed absolutely immaculately here, joining me on desk for the challengers or the Pro League qualifiers.
It truly has been incredible to be here, and the funny thing is, we're not done yet.
We're not
in
done.
About 30 minutes, we're coming right back in. So I can't wait to cast more Apex, and obviously I will get to cast with you in this wonderful production we have here. I'm sure there's gonna be more people awake though. 11 a.m. There was not people awake at 7 a.m. So it's gonna be bigger and probably badder than ever, especially with all of those teams fighting for their tournament lives. Don't you guys go anywhere.
Absolutely.